So I was watching. Somebody threw up a clip from Beavis and Butthead on Reddit. We're live.
Right. From the industrial wastelands of Michigan to the fruited plains of Iowa, this is the American Greed Factory.
Why relate to its sheer perversity?
You are the dead. Remain exactly where you are. Make no move until you are ordered.
We burn them to ashes and then burn the ashes. That's our official motto.
Now we can see you. Clasp your hands behind your heads. Stand out in the middle of the room. Stand back to back.
Who can explain the fascination of fire? What draws us to it, whether we're young or old?
Here comes a candle to light you to bed. Here comes a chopper to chop off your head.
And welcome to the American Greed Factory podcast. This is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew. Thanks for joining us tonight. I got a short somewhere. That was really buzzy and crackly on my end. I don't know what that was.
Oh, it was fine on our end, but
No, it sounded really obnoxiously loud and buzzy over here. But that, who knows? I have to submit my full technical expertise to figuring that out.
Is it just when I talk, or was it?
No, it was the intro playing.
Yeah. I guess there's a little bit of crackle. Yeah, there's some crackle
Yeah,
there.
there is a little bit.
Yeah, oh well.
Yeah.
We can live with it. But dump hundreds of more dollars into this product.
Or we can get a sponsor that's pop, so we can we crackle, and here's the pop, 7-Up.
We get Crackle to advertise on our podcast for shows that nobody wants to watch.
Crackle TV you never wanted to see. Well, we just lost that potential sponsor.
I guess I didn't know that was really still a thing.
Yeah, because it's like free, but it's just ads.
Yeah, you can watch anything. You don't have to pay money.
I remember they did. Didn't they used to have the comedians in cars, and then Netflix just bought that whole fucking thing from them?
Maybe.
I think they did that.
I've never watched or used that app, so.
And then there's, I know they did that Joe Dirt 2 movie, which is, I believe is universally terrible, but the first Joe Dirt's kind of like this weird, like, cult, like, movie. I wouldn't say classic, but it's because it's, like, barely, like, I don't know, it's better than it should be. That's what Joe Dirt is.
It's one of Adam Sandler's underling's best movies, like Rob Schneider's best movie is Deuce Bigelow.
Yeah.
And then David Spades is Joe Dirt, and then what's the other guy? The guy that's in I can't remember.
Grandma's Boy guy.
Yeah, Grandma's Boy. Yeah, that's everybody else. I don't think even had close to their own movie, but usually those are the best Adam Sandler spin-off movies.
And then I was thinking about the other day about because I watched Swiss Army Man. I was thinking about like all the cast from Harry Potter that have gone on to do things, and so Daniel Radcliffe's doing a bunch of weird shit. I guess it's a movie where he plays a farting corpse.
Yeah.
Anything to Buck being a boy wizard.
Well, like before that, he did that. I think it was called Horns.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which they advertised as a comedy, but totally wasn't a comedy. So it was a really weird movie to watch because I wanted to have fun, and it wasn't really fun.
I thought it was still a pretty good movie.
It was all right, but it was like as weird the premise. I kind of wanted to laugh more than just being kind of a weird drama with like demonic possession in it.
Human dramas.
And then what's her name? I remember she did like Perks of Being a Wallflower, and then I don't know what she's doing other stuff.
The little girl played Hermione, or
Yeah.
Well, she was implicated in she was in,
oh wait, she was in
the Panama Papers and stuff for hiding her money offshore in illegal companies. That's what.
Well, her personally or her fucking.
Well, her attorney did it
Yeah,
for her.
there you
Yeah,
go.
pretty much her personally.
Well, no, I mean, a lawyer comes to her and says, "Hey, we can save you money." She's like, "Sure," and then he's like, basically, saying she personally hid money offshore.
She had to say yes. So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but it's a lawyer. I'm pretty sure he sold it to her in a way. Wow. Yeah, maybe she's just an awful person.
Okay, she has 15% of the blame now.
But yeah, I remember she was in that. She was in Beauty and the Beast, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that was a huge movie that I never watched. That was like The Beauty and the Beast is like the American Sniper. There's a weird correlation. It was like it's a movie I didn't think it was big as it was, but it ended up being like huge because like that. Yeah, that was like the highest grossing movie last year was the Beauty and the Beast movie.
Yeah.
Because it made like I want to say like $2 billion worldwide or some shit like that.
And that's what's making Disney roll out its live action remakes of all its animated shit.
And then the year American Sniper came out, that was the #1 movie at the box office year, which I did not expect. That movie, because one, it's like rated R, but two, like I think even if you add overseas, it was the #1 grossing movie. But also, like that year wasn't great for movies. So.
Yeah, but it's Clint Eastwood directed, and it's got a good cast in it. I mean, for all the controversy of it not really being real life and stuff like that, but it's still a pretty solid movie.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it in I saw it in San Antonio, Texas, and that was basically the place that was meant to be watched. So.
Yeah, that's American Sniper. That's sniper country down there.
It's great because you get the
shit with a rifle. You're a hero.
You know the movie's good when people shoot their own rifles at the screen while the movie
in celebration. Me too, Bradley Cooper. Me too.
I'm just like you.
What the fuck was I getting at? Oh yeah, the Rupert kid. You know, the kid who played the redhead tall kid. So yeah, I believe the last thing I knew he was in, there was a Snatch TV show on Crackle that he's in.
So what do I remember him from? That it was kind of a cool movie about faking the moon landing.
Yeah, that was on Netflix with Ron Perlman.
Yeah, that was a Ron Perlman. Like that was a real. He did a great job of acting in that movie. It's a CIA. What was that one called? I don't know. It was a weird movie about the 60s, but it was also sort of cool and over the top violent.
Which one's that?
What was it called?
Is this a Netflix movie or is it just on Netflix?
No, it's on Netflix.
Okay.
Look it up real quick. Talk amongst yourselves.
I mean, otherwise, he's done this one movie with Bill Nye, where it's like a weird spy assassin comedy movie. It's like Weird Target or something like that. It's okay. I actually own it for some reason. I have no idea why. I thought the trailer looked funny and it was okay.
Moonwalkers is what it's called.
Okay.
Was it Hard Target or what was the other movie he did before that? Or does he have filmography up right now, or just the
Poker Night, Skin Trade, Book of Life, Demophoria, Kid Cannabis, Before I Disappear. Don't see anything about a sniper.
Well, it was like Hard Target or Weird Target or something like that. It was Bill Nye was also in it, and then fucking goddamn, what's her name? Pretty famous British actress. I can't remember her name right now. But other than that, technically, one of the guys that played like one of his brothers has had a bigger film career after Harry Potter than he has, and also Neville has had a bigger film career than he has after all that shit. So
yeah, Moonwalkers is a very adult movie. It's a cool movie. It's a French movie, so.
Oh, okay.
But with everyone, it's all English and all English actors and Ron Perlman. It's Ron Perlman, Rupert Grint, and a bunch of other people you've seen in all kinds of, movies like that.
Yeah, I saw Swiss Army Man. That was as expected to be a weird fucking movie.
As expected.
Yeah, but it's a weirdly personal drama too.
Yeah. The guy trapped on an island and this corpse washes up and they basically have adventures and finds utility for this corpse to do things.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the whole thing you're trying to think because the first time you see him he's like hanging himself and he decides to not hang himself when he sees the corpse wash ashore. So you're kind of wondering the whole time, like, all right, what's really going on? Like, what's actually going on? And, like, is this all just imagined in his head? And they play around with that the whole fucking movie, and you don't know.
They don't meet in a church and, like, this was purgatory. Oh, there's a plane flying overhead, and oh fuck you for 8 years of viewing this show. They don't do that.
Well, there's a good line from the directors how they pitched the show to Paul Dano. What he signed up for was they said the first fart will make you laugh and the last fart will make you cry.
That's okay. Sounds like original content. At least.
Yeah. What did I compare it to? Shit, I had a really good comparison. Fuck. I believe it's 280. I compared it to Weekend at Bernie's meets. Fuck.
You said this before, yeah.
Huh?
You've talked about this before. What did you?
I don't know. I don't think I've talked because this is the first time I saw the movie. But
oh, I thought you said this before.
Damn it. Oh well. But yeah, he just has fun with a corpse.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess you might watch it, so I guess I won't ruin it for you. But
I might.
And
You should. It's a good movie.
and Daniel Radcliffe does a really good job of basically not doing anything, just mumbling occasionally and farting.
Yeah, that's actually hard.
And doing it in an American accent, so. Or maybe that was helpful. I don't know.
Well, he's had other roles with American accents recently. There's the one where he's like a CIA guy going undercover with neo-Nazis. That was a pretty good
Oh
movie.
yeah.
He did a good job in that. There's a newer one out where he's like a pilot, and I think he's like doing drug runs to save his wife, but he's also an undercover operative at the same time. And I can't remember what the fuck that one's called, but he's also an American in that one. So, but I don't know if it's easy for British people to drop their accents or not, because it seems like a lot of people do it.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just versatility, but sometimes it doesn't work. I can't think of a good example, but like there are times where it seems like, oh, is this a Swedish actor? It's like, no, this is an English person trying to do an American accent. Like, oh, that's awful. I remember in she did a good job in Helena Bonham Carter in Fight Club. Like, she did a good job, but there's a weird feeling that she was British and that wasn't her original, not her main accent. Like, you just knew. And I don't think I've ever seen her in anything else before that when I saw Fight Club. So
I can think of one. As a matter, it's weird because I just listened to this book this week. It was called what is it? It's 1983, Reagan and Dropov and the World on the Brink. It was narrated by a British guy named Ben Onwuki. At first, it was like very similar to what's the guy's name? The great actor Idris Elba had that kind of, because he's a black guy, so he's British, and he has that really cool combination of really deep voice and British accent. But then he starts doing, in the parts of the book where he's talking about, I'll talk about the book too because it's a cool book, but when he talks like Reagan, he tries to do Reagan's accent and, and it comes off really weird and stilted. And he calls the Soviets, whenever he's talking in an American accent, and he does this a lot, he switches back and forth. When he talks in the Russians, he talks like the Russians, and when he does the Americans, because he does Schultz and he does the Secretary of Defense and Weinberger, but he always calls the Soviets Soviets. Soviets are moving against us, and I'm listening to this, and I was like, we don't say it like that. But he's probably, because he's trying to talk like Ronald Reagan and deliver speeches and stuff like Reagan.
the Soviets.
And I'm trying to figure out the whole time why he's doing it, and I guess it's so he doesn't come out of that accent, because when he's talking in his British accent, he's like, the Soviets are moving, and Margaret Thatcher.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
So he's probably like switching, because he does like a fairly convincing Reagan for a black guy with a really deep voice and a British accent. It's like, yeah, this isn't bad, except the whole Soviets thing. It's like, I've never heard an American call them Soviets.
Yeah. There's sometimes like when you do voices, there'll be kind of like a line you need to like roll yourself in the accent where you can't just do it like immediately. Because like I always do that with Sean Connery. Use the line "should have mailed it to the Marx Brothers," and then like after that you can kind of like just roll into it and do it.
Yeah. It was kind of it was a little jarring, but it was a cool book. But yeah, it was interesting to hear him switch because every American accent he did, like oh, what was the guy's name? Schultz, the Secretary of State. He always talked like this, and he was like, "What are you, a moron? This isn't how we do you know." And it's like, oh, that's a really weird American accent, and I know that Schultz didn't really talk like that. He was more of an East Coast guy, but okay, yeah, I get it. And then like Ronald Reagan was from the Midwest, and well, the Soviets are a huge threat to this and that and the other. I want to get to know the Soviet people, and it's like it's so fucking weird. Even Grayson, we were listening to it together because it was one of my Audible books, and he was like, "We don't say Soviets." I said, "I know." Something with switching accents. I don't know voice work at all, so.
Yeah, to get into, I think I took this maybe from Robin Williams. To get into Ronald Reagan, you just say "well," but you do it in the Ronald Reagan voice. Well, well, Gipper.
But it was a cool book, by the way. It was something me and it's of course it's a book published in the UK, and it's about that me and Grayson were having a conversation once about what the next I forget what video game it was, and this was like a year ago, and he's like, I don't know where the Battlefield and the Call of Duty games are going. I said, well, they need to get some fucking writers, and they need to start doing alternate history. And it's like, well, what would be interesting, like steampunk World War II? I said, no. They had this exercise in 1983 called Able Archer, and the fucking Russians, the Soviets, were so paranoid that they thought that we were actually going to launch nuclear missiles at them because they were interrupting our signals, and we knew they were interrupting our signals. But when it came time to rehearse the part of the exercise which was new, where we launched the nuclear missiles, well, we scrambled everything, and the Russians were like, fuck, they're doing it. And he's like, what are you talking about? I said, you've never heard about that? And he's like, no. And I found some stuff for him to look at, and I think he actually did. But this guy, there's a bunch of Freedom of Information Act shit that came out this year, and that's what this guy wrote this book about. It was in 1983. It was called The War Scare, because the Soviets actually thought it was, and it was a combination of all kinds of, the whole book's really cool, but it's a combination of all kinds of things we had done, like the invasion of Grenada, when they shot down the Korean airline, and we had really aggressive naval exercises that same year, which is why Andropov said, if anything comes into Russian airspace, shoot it down. Fuck these people. They're just screwed. Because that's the one where we sailed right up to their naval base, and they didn't even detect us until they visually saw us. And this was all new stuff they were doing. And then when they had Able Archer, which was a European invasion war exercise, they included nuclear weapons in it as part of the exercise, and they actually like broadcast this is what we're going to do when we launch. Now, they always said it was a test, but the Russians had built up in paranoia so much. Remember in the show The Americans, like the first season, when they were trying to break into the Secretary of Defense's house because the Soviet or the KGB said, we know the Americans are going to attack us. There's no way Ronald Reagan's acting this way. They're going to attack us. Remember that?
Yeah.
Set in that time. That was that's when all this was going on. They had the previous 2 years. They wanted to know things like what else are we doing? Oh, because that's when AIDS started to become a thing, and we were switching out a lot of our blood bank stuff. And well, the Russians thought we were doing that because we were getting ready for a major war, and we wanted to bulk up our blood supplies so we could fight this. There was all kinds of shit they misinterpreted. And so finally, when we had this exercise, the Russians were like very close to being like, oh, they're going to fucking do it. They're going to invade us. And then, because usually when they had these exercises, they would actually have the leaders of the NATO countries like Thatcher, Reagan, all those people, they would actually get on the radio and talk to the people as if they were authorizing nuclear weapons. But they said, because the Russians are so the Soviets are being so paranoid at this time, we're actually not going to do that, so we're not going out over the radio if they could break that frequency, which they couldn't. But we don't want them to actually think we're launching missiles even in a rehearsal, so we'll have other people do it. And then Reagan very publicly left Washington to go somewhere else, and that just drove the Russians, like, he's leaving Washington, they're going to attack. Because Thatcher went somewhere, and it was a lot of like misinterpretation and paranoia on the Russian side, and just a lot of us bumbling through shit. It's like, why wouldn't they like us to put our aircraft carriers right near their major Pacific naval base? Well, why are they so angry? You know, there's
just two ships passing in the middle of the night on the brink of the thermonuclear war.
Well, that's also, you got to remember, the year before Rick upgraded the Navy. Like, we brought all that shit back from World War II, like those battleships and stuff. So we had a 200 ship Navy, technically, which was like 10 times the size of the Russian Navy. And we were doing really aggressive exercises where we'd fly right to their border and turn away. And there was all kinds of shit going on. And then Andropov's health was failing, of course, at the same. We didn't know that. He was like in a hospital most of the time at that point. And the Russians had no means of communicating effectively, so people were just running messages to him. This is in 1983. We're not talking about the 40s, but they still had kind of the same thing. And so it was a cool book if you're interested in that, because this guy puts a lot of things together. Because when you hear about it, it's like, nuclear war in 1983. What the fuck were the Russians? Are they crazy? And then that kind of dissects the things that were going on in the world. It's like, well, from their point of view, they might think that, because Reagan, he always asserted that he was being so aggressive and calling them an evil empire and stuff because he wanted to engage with them. It's like they just hide out in the Kremlin and wait for us to do stuff and then fuck with us. It's like, no, I'm going to go out there and get in their face and tell them what I think. And he thought that would be a form of engagement. But the Russians are like, oh, this guy's crazy. He can't wait. And the Russians always thought we had 100 times more capability than we actually did. They always thought that our science was like magic, and we have invisible planes and submarines they can't see and missiles in space. The Soviets believed all that shit. They thought we always had some secret weapon, because that goes back to World War II and the atom bomb. It's like the Americans always have something like that we won't know about until like the last second, or our as it turned out in World War II. So yeah, it was kind of a cool book if you're interested in that kind of shit.
Yeah, that would be good, like, fodder for like a Black Ops type Call of Duty. But you're in luck; they don't have a story this year.
I know. I keep offering my services. Like, you could write this great story. It's like, how do you know all this stuff? Because I read a fucking book. I didn't just program computers all my life. As a matter of fact, I know nothing about computers, but I know good stories. But half the kids know it. I mean, Grayson knows about it because he's my son. I think he's listening to it as we speak. But like, most kids his age would be like, what the fuck is this? 1983? They didn't even have computers then. Fuck that.
What is it? Still nobody's done a Korean War game, and like that.
Yeah, I don't know why. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that war is so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
I know there's not necessarily like the big battles, because a lot of that war was just like, we'll just shell them into infinity. But like, fuck, what's that book called? This War of Ours. I think that's what it's called. Like, it's like a 2,000-page book.
Well, the one I read is The Longest Winter, but yeah, that's another huge Korean War volume. But yeah, go ahead.
Or if you do Last Stand of Fox Company, you can do an entire game about that one book. Because basically every like war movie cliche that you've seen just actually happens in that fucking book.
That's where the writers got it from.
Like, whenever you see a part where like a dude just has his helmet and he's just beating somebody to death, it's like, it actually happened in the fucking real life.
Well, that's the thing. If you're really talking about a realistic, now that servers are better, I mean, internet connectivity is fast as it's ever been and always getting faster, supposedly, and blah, blah, blah bullshit. You have more programming power and more processing power, and your next generation console is only like a year or two away. Why not have a giant fucking war campaign? They don't want single player anymore anyway, not that I agree with that. But even then, you can make a whole fucking, just like all their World War II shit, just have it be Korea, have it be Argentina, have it be some fucking country you're trying to take over, and just have a progressive battle system where you just keep going. Maybe you lose that battle, and maybe you're on the back foot and you have to defend now or whatever. But just have different fucking stories for the solo thing, and have it be kind of dynamic that way. But then have the multiplayer just be one giant fucking active battle map, where it's just like any other fucking big shooter now, where it's just like, hey, look, which team can control which war zone and all this other shit. It's
Well, Battlefield tries to do some of that stuff, but you would kind of want like an overall, like each battle that happens online is contributing to some battle. The overall.
yeah, and there's been other.
They keep trying that, but they haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, I think it's just more or less there's not enough people on it, and it just doesn't. It gets down to clans and all this other shit at the same time. I just think it breaks down because it's not just red versus.
I think for that medium of entertainment, you could learn something and have a good game. Not that either one of those things are mutually exclusive, which they seem to act like it is.
Yeah.
Because like Battlefield's coming out with this World War II game that's almost pure fantasy. It's like there's real stories there you could tell that would be totally badass. You don't need to be in space and.
Well, they did that a bit with Battlefield 1, where they had these vignettes that were just here's a piece of World War I in a way you may not have seen before.
Yeah,
and and you got shit like the Ottoman Empire and stuff. That was really cool. It's like, I know nothing about the Ottoman Empire, and here I am fighting as the Ottoman Empire, World War I, with horses and shit.
Lawrence of Arabia now.
Yeah.
I actually played that game. I appreciated that about it. I didn't like the gameplay a whole lot, but I liked the concept.
And there was the one where like the first time they used a tank, and then there's the Harlem Hellfighters?
Yeah.
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 But yeah, I mean, this year with Call of Duty, they didn't intend to not do a single player campaign. It just, however they ran into it, they couldn't complete one in time, so they just neglected not to. Because the next Call of Duty, because 3 companies are working on Call of Duties at the same time, they totally intend to have a single player thing next year. So.
Well, they didn't have to have a new Call of Duty every year. I mean.
Well, they went from 2 studios to 3 studios, but still somehow they fucked it up.
No, it's just.
And Treyarch's the good one.
Do you really need 3 fucking studios around the clock working on their own Call of Duty to come out every 3 years?
Well, yeah, because that's an easy $500 million.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to keep money on the table.
But at the same time, that's a lot of development costs. That's a lot of overhead.
Yeah, well, the sales are starting to go down, so they'll probably at some point Call of Duty's. They'll probably stop doing a yearly franchise at some point, but they'll probably still have the franchise operating. But
I think one's kind of in a holding pattern, waiting to see what.
I can't even think of what else Activision does. In other words, just wait for Blizzard to make them money or something. I don't know.
They don't do much shit anymore, and that's the problem. Everybody's tied up with all these, like, just like Assassin's Creed. Everybody got worn out on that shit pretty quick, because like it used to be like between the first couple games there was a few years, so it actually kind of led you like, oh, they did make improvements and they made it a little bit better and the game got better, and then it just went to like, oh, every year, oh yeah, and the bugs are horrible, the gameplay is about the same, the only thing that really changed was the protagonist, which is not really enough to get me emotionally invested to play another 60 hours in this game. And
yeah, that Call of Duty where they went to Pripyat, that was like one of the coolest game scenarios, that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this is really good. It's like, I mean, it's sort of goofy, but it's good. Then it kind of lost its steam after that.
I don't know, I mean, all the Black Ops is really cool, because that's more along the lines of like kind of alternate history kind of thing.
Yeah. I think the alternate history or even real history stuff could engage a lot of people, because there's so much further material out there you can read and study and learn about. And a lot of these kids nowadays seem obsessed with like learning, like getting into one thing and then learning everything about it. I think there's a market there for that.
Yeah, you would think, but at the same
get them off the computer. I mean, I'm just basing the. I have a teenager at home. I'm basing it on his behavior, but his behavior is, I mean, it's sort of abnormal. It's like, I love to play football and know about the Crimean War. Not very many kids are, and I think it's good. I mean, like he topped out the hardest history classes he could take by his sophomore year. There's nothing else they can offer him that will challenge. Now he's doing college level history shit because they don't have anything else that can challenge not only his memorization of dates and times, but also like the reasons it happened, the philosophy, the political stuff. Like, it's hard for me to talk to my son anymore because he knows as much about it as I do. Some things, there's some areas with the certain things that I know more than him, but not a lot. And he likes to play football, which is kind of it seemed like in my mind that's an unusual combination.
His attempt to be normal. What are you doing messing with that shit for?
I guess it's I don't know what he get something out of it though. Got a great tackle the other day in a scrimmage game. It's like, oh, that's my son doing that. Ran all the way across the field and threw himself bodily at someone and knocked him the fuck over. But then that's my movement. Manages to do a lot of things, and then he tells me sometimes he'll be like, I really love football, and then other days he's like, I just don't want to be really fat. Like, okay, well, both laudable goals. Don't know where we're going here, but then he loves those video games. I mean, he's got his purchases planned out for the next year on the Xbox, so and that's fine.
No, you gotta have something, but at the same time.
Well, he doesn't want, because I asked him, I said, do you ever want like a computer? And he's like, no, I'm happy with an iPad. I was like, why don't you want a computer? And he says, it's just trouble. You get into chats and you get to talking to people, and
you could literally do that on any device.
Yeah. Well, yeah, he was thinking more. I was thinking more like PC gaming and stuff, and he's like, no, fuck that. I says, I don't have the patience to learn enough about computers to consistently do that. And he goes, that's not my life anyway.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if you went down a rabbit hole. It's like you get catfish and you slaughter your life savings into this woman in Detroit that says she's into you, but she's really not because she's a man.
All I want to do is play first-person shooters. Video games ruined my life.
Yeah, that's pretty much. So I appreciate his rationale there because I've looked at powerful PC gaming. And
well, I remember he was over here and I had him on my computer and we were playing PUBG. It's a shooter on the PC. Well, I guess it's on Xbox now too.
Yeah.
And he was using the controller. I'm like, you'll want to use the mouse because you'll be more accurate and be faster. And he's like, no, I don't get it. So it's one of those things, if you haven't done it, it's really hard to pick up because it is kind of a foreign thing. Because I remember back in like Quake days, I don't think I even played with a mouse. Like I didn't use the free look mouse. I used like WASD and the numpad to look around and move. Which I don't even like. I can't even fathom how I would do that now. That would be fucking impossible.
Yeah, the hand-eye coordination required to do that would be insane.
Yeah, I did this.
But you could do like really awesome shit with a grenade launcher because it would stick in the same spot. So all you have to do is move it there, and like with a mouse, like you kind of like a little jittery, and you get exact. But with this, it was exact, precise aiming. Yeah. It just wasn't quick. It wasn't quick at all, but it was precise.
Yeah, but when you showed me, I mean, back before I was really able to PC game because my PC was more or less just for small things. But it's like, I still can't. If I have a shooter, I'll fucking get a goddamn controller. I'm not going to get a mouse and a keyboard. To me, that just makes my wrist hurt. And it's just like, this is too much trouble.
It depends. If it's I usually only use the mouse on a game where it's a first person shooter. Because that's where all the advantage is in. If it's like a third-person shooter, like I'll just use a controller because it's just more comfortable. Because then it's more about the character movement and less about the aiming.
Yeah.
And for some reason, about like kind of like moving to cover, or all the different things you can deploy, gadgets, all that shit. It's just easier on a controller somehow. But if it's first-person shooter where shooting is the main objective, then mouse all the way.
I like the controller because you put the vibrating pad next to your crotch. It's like a free sex toy.
Oh, they killed me. Oh.
Yeah, and you start associating orgasms. That won't have any psychological repercussions later. When I come, I die.
Anytime somebody
just like Jesus.
Anytime somebody mugs you.
Hi, Mom and Dad.
Anytime somebody mugs you with a firearm, you get rock hard and jizz in your pants, and they just like walk away without mugging you because
everyone's scared of you.
No, you must finish this.
Finish me.
Come on.
in more than one way.
Come on, cock the gun. Cock it. Come on, I dare you.
What was that? I think that's on Always Sunny in Philadelphia. They had the fear boner.
No.
That's ridiculous.
Where like I think they're like literally getting held up in an alley, and one of them has a boner. And they're like, and everyone just gets is confused about the situation, and everybody is embarrassed by it. Yeah, but you didn't get robbed. I was gonna say something. No, I can't remember. Yeah, I was thinking about that would work for your the Reddit thread to me in real life, for me in real life. It's basically a bunch of suicide jokes, but it can be pretty funny at times.
Please expand on it.
Oh, I thought you were going there right now. I was like, oh.
No, I just write the notes out for the show as we're talking. So
okay.
Later,
Oh,
I'm streamlining my workflow.
There was a suicide cartoon panel on Reddit today. I thought it was kind of funny. Where just guys just sitting at the bottom of a crater is like, this is what rock bottom feels like, and the guy's like, do you need help? He's like, yeah, can you help me out? And then he throws him a rope and it's got a noose at the end of it.
Oh, I love that shit, but you got to be careful. You might encourage people. Like, no, that was just for satire. Oh shit, he's dead. Oh no.
What's the one where like the guy has a noose tied around his neck and he's like watering a tree?
Oh, yeah.
That one. Slow suicide.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
He's playing the long game.
My favorite one is where the guy's sitting there. It's like a silhouette of like the bathroom stuff or the safety, where it's just a guy with a ball for a head. Like it says men, women, all that.
Yeah.
Guy sitting in a chair and it says suicide watch, and he's eating popcorn while someone's hanging themselves. That's a shirt you can get. Oh.
I shouldn't be surprised by shirts you can get. I mean, it used to be I thought T-shirt hell was like the one pushing boundaries and like the innovator, and there's like a million fucking T-shirt websites anymore. That one where it's just the.
None of them in my size range anymore. I gotta lose weight so I can wear cool shirts.
Here's Bugs Bunny looking depressed, and it says it's suffocating to be surrounded by happiness and not be able to feel it.
Jesus Christ.
Depression hurts, suicide can help.
What part of your morning routine takes the longest? Finding the will to live.
My son.
There's another one like that. It's like I think it was on a Black People Twitter, and do you know the show Powerpuff Girls? So like the way their hands are, they don't have fingers.
Yeah, they're just like pig grabbers or something.
Well, they're just like ovals, but like things attached to their arms, but
animation, yeah.
It's like a picture of Bubbles eating like Chinese food with chopsticks, and it says something like this motherfucker doesn't have fingers, can eat Chinese food. Meanwhile, I can't even find the will to live. Something like that.
My son, he doesn't talk about suicide a lot because I'd have to wonder, but they have senior quotes, and he was on the yearbook committee last year, so he took pictures and stuff, and everyone has a quote for their senior year, and he wants his to be, waking up is the second hardest thing in the morning. And I was like, I don't think they're gonna let you put that in there, buddy, but it's like somehow I don't think that's gonna get in the book. But he told me that, and I was like, where do you get this shit? It's like, oh, on the internet. It's like, that's a crazy internet you're looking at.
That's just Reddit.
Yeah,
you click on the wrong things a couple more times, and it'll just start drip feeding you.
I've been on Reddit a lot. I've been on the model forums a lot more than anything. Speaking of models, time for everyone's favorite part of the show, model talk.
You need a music segue for your model talk.
They are the focus of evil in the modern world.
There we go. Remember the A-10 Warthogs from Terminator Salvation?
Yeah.
Yeah, I made one. I don't know if you can see it very clearly.
Yeah.
Can you tell it's like all worn out and all the paint's chipped off of
Yeah,
it?
Apocalypse Warhawk.
I had this model for a while, and I was like, and it was actually painted like an actual because A-10, much like the C-130, are planes that I admire, and I don't know why. It's just like, oh, that's so cool. And then I was watching Terminator Salvation for some self-destructive reason the other day. I was like, hey, they got A-10s in there. So I found some screen caps of it, and I was like, I'm going to make one that looks exactly like that. And I did today. It's like a one-day project, and it turned out almost perfect. It looks exactly like the ones from the movie. And now I'm vaguely disappointed. It's like, I thought that would take weeks. I'm sort of let down.
It's not like there was a bunch of elaborate designs and decals on it. It's just a monochromatic paint job with wear on it, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah. So
But it's like I looked at my reference photos and I did the weathering with a toothbrush and the whatever the you paint it and then you scrub it off with a toothbrush, and it's that undercoat that does that. And it's like, fuck, this looks exactly like the one in the movie. Shit, I'm done. 18 hours in and I'm done. It's like, I'm used to this shit taking weeks.
My skills have surpassed my patience.
Well, I know there's people, if you go on, like, there's, like, Dr. Faust's painting clinic and a bunch of other paint clinic shows on YouTube. Where
That guy's a lunatic, by the way.
Oh.
The shit he does is fucking... I am a subscriber to Dr. Faust's painting clinic, and it's like, oh, this dude is like some kind of engineer somewhere or something, because the shit he's doing, some of it is super difficult. And he's like, yeah, you just do this. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, dude, slow down.
Well, I mean, he has, like, a technique where he sprays hairspray on it first. That way he can weather it, because the paint won't dry with the hairspray, and then you just blow dry it later. There was... I found something on the Warhammer 40K paint sub the other day. Somebody literally took wings from, like, a Nurgle Demon Prince, was like a Prince of Rot. And they hand drew eyes with, like, bloodshot eyes, with, like, pupils, with, like, all these different refractions of light and reflections coming off the pupils.
On one of those little fucking action figures?
No, on, like, giant wings that go on a Death Prince.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, whoa,
but
wait.
It's a guy that usually goes in for the Golden Demon, which is a painting award, like the most prestigious painting award for that community, and he has like 3 of them already. But he literally painted the sign of that Chaos faction into one of the pupils. You can see his reflection that he painted into it, and everything else. Like, he painted in such fucking grand detail. It looks like real human.
Wait, it's not just shiny with his reflection. He painted his reflection as if it was he was painting it.
So he went to a certain amount of detail, and just and the rest of the wings look good too. Very good skin tone and weathering and rot and decay for being basically a plague faction and stuff like that. But then just 2 magnificent, like, you would think somebody taking a photograph of a fucking eye, but he hand drew that with a fucking brush. Like, and it's good clear white. It's not chalky shit, because white's the hardest goddamn color to paint. It looks chalky. It looks shitty.
Nothing like using a scanning electron microscope to paint your figure.
But yeah,
I don't use hairspray. I cheat and I use this. This is the MIG heavy chipping effects. You just that hairspray stuff works, but you got to be pretty aggressive to get it off.
Well, you can also do something where there's, those like gray sponges, like the texture sponges.
Yeah.
You can find your weathering pattern there, where you can just kind of randomly dab on a kind of like a color of like rust or weathering, and kind of chip paint away that way too. Or you can put sand in your airbrush and kind of chip it away at stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of shit you can do. I've never really fucked around with it because I don't have an airbrush, and I don't really have a lot of room.
You need to get an airbrush.
Well, if you want to give me like $300 or $400, I can...
Oh yeah, he doesn't have a whole lot of flat pieces that he's painted.
Yeah, you're doing those little figures. I met a guy. We have they have a builders club that's associated with the store that I go to, and I met some guys there. I met some World War II guys. I didn't bring any examples of my own work because, to be honest with you, I didn't feel like I should. I just wanted to learn from these guys. But they had a Warhammer guy there, and that shit is so fucking impressive. I just can't believe, and I forget what faction or group it was, but the work was like, I was like, oh yeah, pass that over here, because everyone kind of had stuff. We meet at a coffee shop, and I was just looking at it, and I wish I had one of my magnifying glasses, because it is really impressive what people do with that, and it's so small.
Yeah.
Because I'm more like a broad area guy. Like, you know, I can do like Rust and all this stuff on a larger area. But some of the stuff they're doing in the really fine detail is awesome. And sometimes I think about when I'm in the store, because they have a lot of Citadel stuff there and a lot of Warhammer stuff. And I'm thinking, wow, you know, that stuff really looks good. Then I look at the price of it. It just scares me off. It's like, no, I could buy 4 models for what that stuff costs.
Well, if you think the Citadel, where the regular stuff's overpriced, check out Forge World sometime. That goddamn shit. Like, I just looked at some dreadnoughts and stuff the other day because I was like, I really want this. I really want this. In between the price from conversion to pounds and the shipping and the tax and shit, for what would have been a $60 model in the U.S. for the regular company was like a $130 model. For basically fancier version of it with a few different things on it, because it was in resin instead of plastic, which is a whole nother beast to work on and get right and shit too. So I mean, it's
never worked with resin. Talk to a resin guy, but I'll tell you, like airbrushes like this one,
yeah,
that's $65 airbrush. That's suction feed, siphon feed, Posh.
Well, but you also need the air compressor.
Yeah,
you also need
$125.
I mean, you also need to have different needles sometimes for different flow rates. You have to cleaning solution, paints, all new.
I clean mine with water. I clean mine with water while I'm in progress, and then I soak them down with alcohol when I'm done, so they don't rust. And yeah, I don't spend a lot of. Oh God, John's gonna hate me, but I'm gonna have to do it. This is my airbrush cleaner. This is a what is this?
Windshield washer fluid.
Windshield washer. I'm sorry. Let me get the mic on me. Windshield washer fluid, glycol, and alcohol. And then when I'm doing, when I really want to clean it good after I'm done with a weekend, I do the Tamiya airbrush cleaner. Shoot it through once, take it apart, clean it. Airbrushing it's not that expensive, but the compressor can be a little daunting because it's like anywhere from $160 to $200. But this is my favorite airbrush. I've never changed the needle on it. I just changed the flow rate. This is great for priming and all that stuff. And if I want to get fancy and do stuff, this is like a $200 the Talon, and that has all the different needles and stuff. And I've played with that. But really, just to get started, to get a coat on.
I mean, it's great for that, and I'm not gonna say that I wouldn't love an airbrush for like, oh yeah, I got this giant fucking dragon covered in armor with fucking Gatling cannons for arms. I would love to have that a fucking airbrush so I could just quickly base coat what I needed to base coat, and then move on to detail stuff with a brush. But like 90% of what I do is mostly small stuff where it's like
right.
I'll rattle can, prime it, and then after that it'll be washes and smaller patches of colors. So it's like airbrush just doesn't make sense for me at the moment.
Yeah, you're doing a whole different thing. I'm doing like crazy shit, like Star Wars models, machining Krieger when I can afford it.
I saw some really. I went to a different hobby shop last weekend because my wife wanted to go clothes shopping because it was her birthday present and stuff. But I went to the one in Lindale Mall, the one that apparently nobody goes to in the middle of the afternoon.
I've been there, yeah.
On a weekend. It was nice. It's a nice shop. It's pretty big. And they had some really awesome Star Wars models. Like, oh, I love that TIE Interceptor. I'd love to build that and paint that. Or I love that Millennium Falcon. It wasn't as cool as yours, but it was still pretty decent. It was a Bandai model still, and looked pretty cool.
Yeah, well, mine's stupid expensive. So, because my wife is still to this day, I don't know if you've seen pictures of it. I used to have pictures of it up. But she's like, that turned out so awesome. I said, yeah, that's what a $400 model looks like. It doesn't have anything to do with me other than knowing how to apply and when not to apply. And also, that was the first one I worked with oil paints on, so that's kind of different from the rest of my stuff. But yeah, because I went $100 in on paint on that because that's what I like to do. But yeah, that's I get it. I mean, it's a different kind of modeling.
No,
I'm just trying to build like just the craziest sci-fi shit I can, and it's all large, very large compared to what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there is stuff like there's knights and giant motherfucking things that, I mean, I could use airbrush to finally paint my scenery more than I have, and other stuff like that, and paint all my vehicles a lot quicker. But I don't, like I said, it's just there's too much small shit, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not really going to improve what you're doing overall. It's just like a nicety. It's like, well, I don't have to buy a rattle can, but yeah, why would you invest $400 in a whole paint setup when you can just do it with a rattle can for $11? Yeah, I get that.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like the Rust-Oleum, so it's like $4.50 a can at Walmart. So like,
yeah.
I get through like 15 boxes of models for $5 for paint for priming.
Yeah, it's a nice thing about resin. You can pretty much use anything like that.
I mean, it sucks right now because the last couple of weeks when I've been priming stuff, if I've had the time to build and do anything, it's so humid, like it clumps up a little bit with the paint. It looks shitty, and I have to like redo it. But
that's why I set up a spray booth in my bedroom, because I gave up on trying to do it. The garage is for fall, winter, spring, and then the summer modeling. Like the Millennium Falcon was entirely done in this room with a spray booth. So
I'll have to look into that because I'm getting kind of tired of like, oh, like I painted or spray painted 4 models to get ready to paint, and then like 3 of them look fine, but then the other one looks like it was attacked by the blob monster because all the humidity made the paint bubble and look like shit. It's like, not a fun fucking thing. And usually I didn't have to really worry about it that much because I switched paints and made it better.
this is $80.
Oh.
And you clean the filters yourself. Don't buy their filters.
Oh, just online or just at a hobby shop? Cause...
Amazon.
Oh.
Some Chinese shit, but it works. I make my own filters for it at this point, but yeah, I can do. The Millennium Falcon was done in here, and that's including thin sprayed oil paints, and it didn't really stink up the house too much. And I have a drop thing so I don't get shit on my carpet. But yeah, I gave up trying to, because I was actually gonna like, what was I gonna do? I was gonna insulate the garage and try to get some kind of HVAC system in there just to get the humidity out of the air. And it's like, well, you're looking at thousands of dollars, and it's like, fuck, I could buy this for. I have HVAC in the house, so. And I have a humidity gauge, and I have an internal AC unit that I can just run to dehumidify. I can get the humidity down to 20% in here if I really go crazy. So.
God, I couldn't imagine that low level humidity because I started running one in my basement because I had mold issues, and the lowest I can usually get is around 49 or 50, and that's pretty much it. So.
My average house average, I have a little gauge here. If my house average is 40%, and my house is usually 75 degrees. That's the coldest I can keep it and not pay $500 a month in electrical bills. But
yeah. I was about to say my wife would be very uncomfortable in your house because 75 to her is like a tropical heat wave. Because like the air conditioner in our bedroom keeps going 24/7. It'll be like 59 degrees in the room, and she'll still have it pumping.
Well, we have a central unit, and it's almost 20 years old, so it's an old system. It's $8,000 to replace. It's like, I'm not going to beat this thing to death. I'm going to have it recharged next spring. Of course, now we might be selling our house and moving, so.
You're still, I didn't know you were still doing that.
Stay tuned. Yeah, well, I mean, we're always looking to move. But I just. So I look at the prices, and it's like, oh, shit, that's a gut buster of a brand. That's a $250,000 house. It'd be nice, but it's like, that's a expensive house for where I live.
Yeah, and maybe you should almost wait for the next real estate collapse.
Oh, it's gonna happen any moment now.
But then again, then you wouldn't be able to sell your house either. So I mean, it's.
Well, the thing is, it's like we had we have a 30-year mortgage on this house. I've been living in it 20 years.
Yeah.
So I have a hog leg of equity. Like I have, over $100,000 worth of equity that I've just paid off in this home. But yeah, that's the thing. It's like, you want to sell that and get into a $250,000 house that's roughly the same size, that's actually got a smaller lot but more amenities, or do you just want to stay where you're at? And sometimes I bounce that around. It's like, well, we got the next contract coming up. I don't know where I'm going to be job-wise, and so you throw all these things together. But then eventually you just say fuck it and do it, because either you're going to be fine or you're going to lose everything.
Well, I mean, are you going to? I mean, I'm assuming you're not going to do a 30-year mortgage again. You're going to do like a 15 if you can go buy another house.
I'll do a 30-year mortgage again. I don't care.
Well, because some people raise that issue as soon as you're up near a certain age bracket. They're like, why are you doing a 30-year mortgage? You're going to die before you see it paid off. And it's like...
Exactly. Well, I'm not going to care. It ceased to exist at that point. So it's like, well, you can't get blood. You can't get blood from a corpse. Or you can. But...
Well, I know, but I just remember...
It's EOD tech.
Yeah.
Thinking. It's like, I either disarm this bomb, or suddenly it's not my problem anymore.
Well, no, it's just something where when I bought a house and had like a financial, manager and stuff kind of walk me through stuff, and a bunch of people in the room signing documents and stuff all day and the next day and shit. Like, every one of them was like, oh, you did such a great job. I was like, yeah, I signed a bunch of documents and borrowed a bunch of money. How the fuck is that a great job? Like,
now you're making me suspicious. What did I do wrong?
But it was just like, literally like, you got a great jump on your future. You bought really young. That's good for you. That means you'll have it paid off before you retire, but you don't have to worry about it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's good. I mean, yeah, by when I'm 57 and a half, my house will finally be paid off. But that doesn't mean I'm going to be fucking set for life after that.
Yeah, I bought this house when I was 24. I put a boatload of money down, and I refinanced it once because the rates were getting so crazy low. It's like, well, I got to do this. But yeah, I'm okay on the house. But the thing is, you have to upgrade. You can't go like straight across and get anything decent. I want to get something nicer, but I don't know. It's I always. The only thing I've ever done is I always have enough life insurance to, like, where if I die in a car wreck or just drop over dead or whatever, it's like my family won't have a mortgage. It's like my wife and son won't have to worry about where they're going to live. They can worry about everything else, but they won't have to worry about that. So that's about the best financial planning I can do, because I don't make enough money to leave a large sum or have investments that will pay back. As a matter of fact, the last quarter in my retirement, I made $23 in Ford stock. So that's about to change. I'm gonna move that around. But yeah, we looked at some new houses. But I don't know. They're nicer. They're smaller, but they're I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what Grayson's. I don't know if he's gonna live with us for 10 years or go do his own thing. I don't. I never know. So I want to have enough room for him.
Yeah. I recently looked at the real estate market around here again, since people were complaining about how high prices are and stuff again. I knew they had gotten higher, but there's the guy next door, actually next to us right now, just started selling last week. And his house always seemed really nice from the outside, but God, this looks like crap on the inside. And he still wants like $145,000 for it. It's basically 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the
this $800,000 fixie-upper.
Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's parts of the house that look pretty good, and are good, but like a lot of it, like the upstairs bathroom is like the weirdest fucking design ever. It's like a triangle sink with shelves on the outside of it, and then a weird mirror triangly sunk into the wall, and then a really tiny, skinny shower, and that's the main bathroom on the living level. The only other bathroom in the house looks like it's in the basement. And it looks like somebody haphazardly put together other wall fittings from each decade in different colors in a prison shower in the fucking basement.
Yeah, that's what we call Russian houses around here. All the guys from Eastern Europe that bought houses 20 years ago and did all this cut rate home improvement. You'll go look at these houses and like, what the fuck is this? where do you find these fixtures, and who designs a bathroom like this? Oh, it's like, well, whatever you can get, you know, whatever's discontinued at the wholesale lot.
Some other house construction's going on. You just steal some supplies as you go.
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah, those are called Russian houses here.
Oh, did I ever tell you and Colin about like the worst house I saw when I was originally looking for the house I have now? It was on the northwest side of Cedar Rapids, close to where my mom and grandma live now, but they didn't live there at the time. It'd gotten out in the listing that we checked online before we went, and there were some pictures of the inside, but not complete. It was just like newly remodeled, new fixtures, new garage, new cement pad, new deck. And so I think it was like $108,000. It wasn't too bad. But we go inside right away, and it looked like they're in the wheelchair ramp up to the kitchen door, which is the main door. You go in the kitchen, it's half 1980s needs to be redone, half kitchen fire. And then that's the way the kitchen was in, so it looked really bad. And then you go into the one bathroom, and it looked like somebody had half demoed it and then left it that way, because there was a shower with just bare wall and then like half tile like at the ankle level down to the floor, and that was the bathroom. So it's like, well, it only had a shower head too, so I'm like, there's no curtain rod, so if you take a shower, all the water's just gonna get all over the wall. It's gonna get all over the floor. And it's like, oh, you can work on that. I'm like, but then the rest of the house is like newly recarpeted, painted, new fixtures, everything, and the deck looked nice, the garage looked nice, because that was all the brand new part. I'm like, oh, do you want to see the basement? Like, oh, okay, it has a basement. And then I go downstairs. Somebody, I don't know what the fuck they did this for, if it was insulation purposes or what it was. You know, like the wood shingles on the outside of houses that double as siding?
Yeah.
Those were on the inside of the basement, lining the entire basement walls. Just wood, exterior wood house shingles.
This is my kill room.
It looked like it. It was very dark. It had a pole in the middle, and yeah, it was. I'm sure that was the structural support pole. But then it had like a door to the outside. It looked real dirty and weird and dark, and like, yeah, this is a great basement. And that was the $108,000 house, the half burnt down kitchen, the half demoed bathroom in the murder basement for $108,000.
Yeah.
The blood drips down from the bathroom and down into the basement walls.
But technically, at least you can kill whoever you want, because it doesn't matter if they're in a wheelchair. You can use the wheelchair ramp to get up to the kill zone. And then, you know, handicap accessible murder. I mean, it was nice.
Handicap and corpse accessible.
Yeah, that's the only thing I want to know about this house, fucko. Does it have floor drains in the basement? Everything else looks perfect. Oh, yeah, we got showed some real dandies around here in 1998. Like the one house they showed us where the only bathroom was upstairs. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because they took the downstairs bathroom and made it into a laundry room. It's like, really? They thought, and the main bedroom was downstairs. It's like, what are these guys doing? Just pissing out the window? I mean, it was a terrible house.
Yeah, I remember it was a nightmare in our house in Wabash. We just had one bathroom on the first floor. That was a nightmare.
Yeah, that led to a lot of urinating out windows, which everyone else was horrified by. But I was like, what? Problem? What's everyone freaked out about?
It's when you start taking dumps out the window. It becomes
It's not like a shit out the window. Chamber pot, throw it out on the
quick, unhinge the air conditioning unit. I need to take a shit.
I remember my mom finally found out, but in my mom's old house, because sometimes, like, since me and my brother shared a room, if it was just late at night and I wanted to fall asleep and be by myself, I'd fall asleep in the rec room. But that was like the addition to the house, and it was, you had to snake through like 3 other rooms to get to the bathroom. Even though the bathroom window went into the rec room, so it's almost like, why didn't you just build a fucking door here? There's an exterior window to an add-on room, so I can see the bathroom and see somebody in it, but I can't actually go to the bathroom. So it's like I get up and I have to pee, but I just like, oh, there's a back door over there. It has a screen door in it, so I just piss through the screen door. The back of the fucking thing.
I like the voyeur window in the bathroom built in.
Yeah, I know, that was always the weirdest thing to me, because it was like, that's where our laundry is at, that's where our one bathroom and shower was at, and it just had a fucking window out into the add-on.
This is where Slender Man pisses.
Oh God. Yep. Yeah, we need to have a new set. You guys need to figure out a model for me to build.
Well, I mean, what are you interested in building next, or is it just something where
Just pick one that's not like,
just pick one?
you know.
Well, there's one I've been looking at. Have you done any motorized models at all? Anything like that?
Oh, I hate those. They're too expensive.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, there's one. It's like $80 or something like that on Amazon. It's like a motorized Victoria Mark I tank from World War One. It looked pretty interesting. That's something I was personally thinking about getting into because it looks sort of like something I could buy for $200 from the UK, but it's $80 and it's motorized on Amazon. And it has more like it looks more badass than the other one does too. And I could just take little bits from crap I have laying around the house to make the weapons on it and shit. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something where it's like I kind of want to do that. And I watched the whole tutorial video that was an hour long of him building it, or a guy that owned a hobby shop in Pennsylvania building it and putting it together. Just the motor part seemed more of like, well, I might need to know more about this before I just slap $80 down on a kit.
You ever done a submarine before? Well,
Yeah.
Other than the Yamato.
Oh yeah, I've done some World War II submarines.
Or an aircraft carrier? Get one of those giant.
It was like $300.
How about
All right, then just get a $300 Gundam kit.
There's many of them.
I'm assuming you've only more or less done American airplanes, right?
No, my
Russian.
biggest one's a Russian one,
Oh.
the MiG-25. I've done 2 of those.
No, because I was trying to think if there's even models out there for certain jet aircraft from like World War II, like the Japanese and German like retro designs and stuff like that. Because I know some people have like graphics and stuff, and they're in different airplane books and stuff. But I don't know if their models exist for them or not.
Oh yeah, they have a model for the Messerschmitt.
Okay.
All right, challenge you to do the Machine and Krieger, the weird ones where it's basically like the half-naked ladies coming out of the machine.
Oh, those are add-ons to the machine. They have some half-naked lady models down at the model cave. Me and my wife were joking about them.
Because that'd be a challenge, because I don't think you've done like kind of that detailed painting nor tried to paint realistic people before. That's got to be a
No,
whole
I
new
haven't
thing.
done that. Okay, I'll have to look that up, see what they have.
I saw a bunch on Amazon because I was looking on there for stuff for you, and then it was just like, what's all these pinup models? Like, what's this have to do with Machine and Krieger? It was basically like a Playboy like issue of just Machine and Krieger ladies.
Oh, they have the anime girls. It's right next to the Gundam stuff, and it's like girls wearing like panty or what would you call it? Like bikinis, with the big weird anime eyes, but like fully anatomically correct under the bikinis. You can tell, and it's like, oh, if you had the right shading, it's like, oh yeah, this is what the lonely guys do. They do the vulva models.
Or you can do the teddy bear Gundam models that Bandai makes, where it's like teddy bears that have guns for arms and shit, and like bows and like.
Oh, they have the Bandai Toon tanks, where it's like pink tanks and they're like cartoonish looking Sherman tanks and stuff like that. That stuff's kind of expensive.
Yeah, I mean, what I'd like to see is I've almost thinking about getting it, but I think it's like almost $200 is the Metal Gear Rex model from Metal Gear Solid.
I didn't even know they had one of those.
Oh, they have all of them. So, the Sahelanthropus, Metal Gear Rex, they have them all. But I hear they're pretty expensive, and I hear they're not necessarily that well made.
Yes.
Nor can the model like necessarily support itself very well. Because they're very top heavy with weird leg architecture. So
yeah,
that seems kind of like model building 101. If you're gonna sell somebody something, make sure it can actually support itself. if you build.
Well, there's like a base that you can attach it to, but because I think it's like slightly movable or something, or at least you can pose the legs in some way. But it's because it's a very top heavy model. It's a precarious situation. But I always like the Metal Gear Rex design because they designed it for the PlayStation 1, so it was a very boxy look, but they got a lot of detail in it that's very I appreciate. So it's like simple but lots of detail, and it's just a really cool looking thing.
All right, how about Boba Fett's fire spray, and just write Fett's Vet on the side of it in big letters.
Oh, the Slave One.
Oh,
yeah, they have those.
or just get the is there a Japanese like masterclass Enterprise model out there? Enterprise A model?
There are.
Because I fucking
Lights make some good
I
ones.
I fucking loved making Star Trek models. The problem is like the pylons are always like just a bitch to get right on those, because you fuck it up like one's off kilter and stuff like that, and it's like the most brittle part of a model is like where those pylons attach to the body, because it's like a lot of heavy hanging off something like this big.
Yeah, there's glue that will. Oh, they're unavailable. I know they have some down at the model store though.
Sorry, I'm just going on Amazon so I can look at this. Oh, connection interrupted. Bullshit. I'm in 4G.
Well, it's in the basement here, so it might not be too.
I still call bullshit 4G. Just because
I want them to have. I asked them if because supposedly it's Mobius. Somebody's doing Discovery, all the Discovery models.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Because I would like to build the original what was it? The original series Enterprise as seen on Star Trek Discovery.
Yeah.
But Mobius models got bought by somebody. They did the 2001 Discovery that I built, which was a really cool model.
And I remember like you had some Romulan bird of preys you made back in the day that were really cool.
Yeah,
I bet
those are still around.
Well, I bet they make better ones, because those were all like AMC Ertl, and I bet there's probably some Japanese company that makes a better one.
There's a lot of Battlestar Galactica stuff. I know that.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
Even from the new and old series.
Yeah, either one. Get the new old Viper.
Yeah, somebody said they're gonna start redoing Battlestar Galactica again or something like that.
Probably. Yeah.
Why not?
I mean,
Mobius is it's Mobius that's doing it. They're gonna have all the Discovery stuff.
Okay.
Because they just did the Star Trek Beyond USS Franklin.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Whoa. Enterprise A NCC 1701A refit.
Sorry, no.
$95.
Now I'm down to 3G. That's how bad your basement is. I got knocked down a G.
I mean, I can sign you into the internet if you want, but
yeah, good.
Or I can look it up on here because we're not broadcasting my internet window.
No, that's fine. I'll try and look it up later. I was trying to think of other ideas, but
I put together a model this week.
What's that?
It's a model called "You Were Never Really Here," starring Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh.
Oh, is that the weird documentary thing he did?
No. This is it's his latest movie. It's just like it has terrible reviews on Amazon. It's also apparently it's an Amazon Studios movie.
Okay.
But what I mean is like it's like Drive in that you have to bring something to it to make it a good movie. If you don't bring anything to it, it's just a slog of brutalness that means nothing.
Okay.
It's also a really short movie. Like right when things get like exciting, it's like where it's like, okay, 2 congressional candidates have just been murdered like within a day of each other. Things should be flipping out more, and then the movie's over.
I like the movie just fine.
I know. I thought it was a good movie. But yeah, I was like, why does this get such bad reviews on Amazon? It's because people didn't like it because it didn't explain things at all. You had to interpret things a lot. It was a short movie, and then also it's a very brutal movie.
What the fuck was there to interpret? I mean, there's like weird flashback scenes a little bit.
Well, yeah, there's nothing is really directly stated in the movie. Because like even in the trailer, you think, okay, this guy's some kind of hitman, but you don't figure out till like, oh, what this guy specifically, or someone described it as he's like a vigilante for hire, but specifically he finds lost women who are kind of like put in, to like, well, there's a lot lost girls who are put into like sex slaves and stuff like that, and then he goes and finds them, beats up or kills somebody, and then brings them home, and that's his job. And also he's constantly trying to kill himself casually.
I just thought it was more of a, because it goes the flashback of him as a kid when his dad is probably beating on his mother and stuff like that.
Most
where
likely.
He's trying to escape and feel like he's part of a different reality, so he's got the bag over his head. That's why I just felt like it's kind of a coping mechanism for him as an adult.
Yeah.
Trying to like de-escalate whatever he's feeling. He's obviously has PTSD.
Well, like, all right, really, if you take like, it's a kid in a closet. You put a bag over his head because his parents are yelling. But see, if I break it down, it's like the bag he's using is a dry cleaner bag because his father, who is a Marine, had his blues recently dry cleaned, and that's the cover that the bag is in, and that's the bag he's holding over his head when his parents are fighting. He ends up becoming, I believe, a Marine himself.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's which Gulf War it is, because he could be in like a really young in the first Gulf War, or it could just be just him. Well, it's an older version of him, so it's probably more Afghan War. So yeah, there's like this continued cycle of violence. He follows in his dad's footstep. He doesn't really like his dad. Now, anybody else watches that scene, it's just this kid with a bag on his head.
No, I mean, yeah, I get there's some interpretation to it. There's this weird fucking like flashback scene because he always kind of like has candy and shit and soda for the kids.
Yeah.
When he picks them up because I think he just ties it to when he was helping out kids in Iraq and Afghanistan or wherever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a flashback part where it's like he gives the kid candy, the kid runs off, and then another kid pulls a gun, blows the other kid away for the candy. And I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, if that really happened, yeah, it's a fucking good movie.
It's really short. It's 80 minutes.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, I didn't expect anything from it. I just watched the trailer a couple times and showed it to my wife, and I thought it looked like a...
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, I heard like a lot of different things, but then like some people are talking about on Twitter or my feed, like saying how the director had a really like, brutal vision or something like that. It's like, I'll watch this, and I didn't realize how short it was because the movie just fucking ends.
Well, did it really
I
need
didn't
to
realize that Joaquin Phoenix is considered a Puerto Rican.
Okay.
That's where he was born.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say,
But I was
like,
looking up some
Is
things.
this like Louis C.K.'s like Mexican?
It's like list of famous Puerto Ricans. Joaquin Phoenix. Like what?
There's a weird guy. Well, I guess it's not weird. It's kind of weird when you break it down. But there's a guy. He's a wrestler. His name's Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
And so he looks like an Irish dude, red beard, red hair, has like a bowler cap or what I can't. One of those caps. It's like Irish people wear or just English people. One of those caps. He's actually like Syrian, and he's from Canada, so he can speak whatever they speak in Syria, and French and English.
Huh.
His parents like immigrated from Syria to Montreal. And it's just, and like I've seen him speak like all the languages fluently, and it's like that's fucking weird. This guy looks like he just figured he was just some Irish dude, but no, he's Syrian.
Huh. That's weird.
Okay, I guess I wouldn't have thought you pronounced it that. I was trying to look up Machine and Krieger, and I didn't think you'd spell it that way, so that's what I was...
Yeah, it's weird.
Never seen any of the models, so that's why I'm trying. It was more or less looking up that, because I'm like, I don't know. I can kind of picture maybe it's like robotic and maybe steampunkish and just weird.
It's well, it's like Nathan explained. It's kind of it's sort of Japanese models by the way of German designs.
Yeah.
It's a combination of Japanese and German. So fully World War II.
Yeah, it's what I call Japanese
Yeah, 'cause
Nazism.
like this one has like 2 Panzerfausts on the back of its backpack, with like arms and 2 fucking legs and shit. So I can see the German aspect there. Amazon doesn't seem to have a.
But yeah, I mean, and Machine and Krieger, it's like that's a German sounding thing.
Yeah.
But
Well,
Yeah, those are weird, hard to find, and horribly expensive.
well, the first one I looked at was like $37. This one's $52.61 supposedly.
yeah, there's some reasonably priced things on Amazon, but there's also because like, are they still like doing it, or is he just like old? Are there older models that are like hard to get that are really expensive?
Hasegawa's doing them as new models, but they don't have as many as Nitto and Wave, because the one I really want to do is called like the Hoff's Super Jerry, which is just a walker with a big cannon on the front, but it's got all kinds of, like, the guy sits way in the back, and it's really cool, but you can't find those anywhere for any reasonable price.
Yeah, because there's the one I was looking at before is like the Grosser Hund. And then
Yeah, that's the robot.
And then the Hasegawa anti-gravity armored fighter. And then the one I was looking at right now is the MK07 robot battle V44 Moon heavily armored combat uniform. Which I don't know. It's here. It's the guy's like an even fucking guy.
Oh, Nathan knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a dude with a
like a power suit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks really cool. I'd be into it. Especially if I could, like, somehow make it part of my tabletop gaming. Because people like to see that in my shop. They like to see stuff people kit bashed or made from something else. Because you'll go on even the 40K Reddit and you'll fucking see, like, oh, here's this from this game system. But I just added some bits and made it look more of like this, and it looks perfectly like a fucking tank or like a giant spider tank, and just call it that or whatever. And it's just.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Machine and Krieger is like it's there's no story through line. It's not based on anything, right? It's just pretty much just an aesthetic model.
Yeah, I mean,
ideas put together,
and then it became like a. Yeah, it's just basically a modeling aesthetic. It's like, how crazy can you make these models?
I can make him fucking insane. Look, just have a giant. Oh, that's fucking cool.
Yeah, the Russians are the best with them, because they'll be the guys like, yeah, just throw kerosene in with your paint and it gets you that stippled effect. And it's like, what? Why are you painting these? You just blow kerosene around.
Well, if I would pick one country to just have a bunch of kerosene laying around every household, it'd probably be Russia.
Yeah, it's probably more. Did you get those links?
Yeah, I'm looking at the Super Jerry right now.
Yeah, that one's a lot more detailed than it looks in that picture. Because the guy rides way in the back. He's slung in the back. It's like
154.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's crazy.
What's the scale?
Oh.
The other ones say like 1/20th. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell scale that one is. If it's that much.
I don't think this is by Amazon. I think this is a seller.
Yeah, that's a private seller.
Oh, Japan import. Yeah.
Yeah.
Japan import. Oh, okay. You must already imported it because it says $291 shipping. I was like, that seems kind of low for.
Yeah. No, they're very inconsistent.
I wonder what eBay has them for, if you can find them on there.
Oh, they're even crazy. eBay.
So I know there's like Facebook and Reddit have model trading communities, so maybe you can find one on there for cheaper or better prices.
Because Hasegawa, see, most of that stuff you're buying is like, Hasegawa USA is like aftermarket, because they're made by. Because the Hasegawa ones are the only people currently making it. See, there's a lot of things with the rights to that really moved around a lot, and it's hard to understand.
I think the rights just made up stuff that doesn't really have an origin anywhere else. Wouldn't be that hard to I mean, you could basically put an extra nub or gun on it and call it something totally different and skirt it away that way.
You wouldn't think, but yeah.
I mean, everybody else internationally is so blatantly like, oh, you got a copyright on that? Well, nice for you.
Well, Nathan, he bought some Gundam thing and kind of kit bashed to make it more look like a Machine and Krieger thing, right?
Oh yeah, my ball, my mobile pod ball or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see that.
At some point, I don't think I show you guys my flying testicle that I painted.
Guys want to see my ball?
We're showing off balls.
Okay, yeah, here's this guy. That's a Gundam, and I put I weathered the hell out of it. This actually comes apart, and there's detail underneath. But yeah, I put a lot of the Machine and Krieger type weathering and all Machine and Krieger stickers on it. So. Let me try to find. I don't know.
At some point, I'll probably buy a model that's not associated with Warhammer 40k and not just have it be a model. But I have so little space right now for that. I don't know when that will be. Because I feel like I'm nerdy enough to own those things and paint them and build them and play with them like they're army men, but I'm not nerdy enough to just display one in my home.
Yeah.
Apparently, or something. I don't fucking.
Well, the Gundam's really fun to build because you're just putting together an action figure.
Yeah. And they're super detailed.
Yeah.
Okay,
They're also expensive, but.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But there's ones you can get for like $20. But.
Yeah, this the mobile pod ball was this was like 23. It wasn't too expensive, and it was a very, like I said, this is I can take the outer armor off this thing, and there's a whole world underneath it that I also did. Let's see, Hasegawa is actually selling the Gozerhund for $36. That's the robot Machine and Krieger.
Yeah, it's pretty much the price it was going for at Amazon, so that makes sense.
And that's about... They have the tank, but I've already done that one. I don't know. They're really expensive. And they're way marked up when they come to America, too.
Yeah, if you think that's expensive, you should see what's... I always get your name for some reason and Casey's brother's name mixed up because you both have similar looks. You both have full beards and about the same build, everything else.
Yeah.
And his deep voice, and I mean that's pretty much where the similarities stop because obviously you're not different.
You're a different person, Nathan.
but
you're doppelganger.
But at the same time, he's I think this Friday, or we're gonna both drop not together, but in total like $150, not including sales tax on a box full of shit that comes out this Friday. They're just different models and stuff. So that's right. That seems to be regularly the price for most GW stuff that's big boxes, except for what just came out this last Friday, which was Adeptus Titanicus, where it's normally these giant fucking knights that you buy for anywhere from $600 or $700 to $250 that they shrunk down into miniature tiny versions that now go from $60 to $120. And it's just like you have miniature terrain and miniature everything else, and you're supposed to fight with miniatures basically. And I think that was like $100 or $80 or $200 just for a box of those. And just I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
No, like some of their prices get pretty fucking outrageous, especially for like you'll find a box with 3 guys that are probably about like their bases are like 40 mil wide, and then maybe they're fucking heroic scale, so they're probably like double the size of an army man, but they're like $65 or $70 for a box of 3 guys. That's all it is.
They should make Gundam G.I. Joes.
Hey,
they should.
There's supposedly a new Gundam tabletop game. I just haven't seen any of the models associated with it or any of the rules yet. Because one of my friends texted me the other day because he wanted to hang out again. And I was like, oh, what do you want to do? He's like, something cheap because I got a new hobby. And I'm like, oh, what'd you get into? He's like, Gundam tabletop. And he's like, I have 25 kits so far. And I was like, oh, Those must be pretty cheap. He's like, no, they're anywhere from $25 to $75.
I got some paper airplane books if you want to go have fun. You can make, they're cool at paper airplanes.
Yeah, but that means I have to be able to fold straight lines.
Oh, it shows you.
Oh, I know. Straight lines has never been a friend to me. Drawing, folding, anything straight line, just never been a friend.
Yeah, I just do Coke in a circle.
I mean, Coke's still Coke if it's not a straight line, right?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be rails. It can be.
It could be bumps. It could be. Is bumps just because it looks like a hill, or is bump just because it's like just like a little fist bump towards your nose? Like
Probably a combination of all. I always like key bumps.
Oh,
where it's like as much Coke as you can fit on the key and shove it in your nose. Because in the Artie Lang book, it's like 40 pages of key bumps.
Artie Lang. There's the guy. Good role model.
Yep.
Yeah, those are like $100.
Oh, those are the fucking Machining Krieger naked people.
Yep. Those are they call them test pilots. Pilot girl. Heavy Metal Pilot has like triple D boobs.
So how much is it to declare your virginity?
Yeah, I don't know. You have those. Like I said, they have all that stuff down at the stores. Like, who's doing this?
Well,
My wife love this.
Here's a model where it's like 30% of her body mass is her breasts.
Yeah.
And I'm sure because the ratings look like 3 stars from here, so there's all the people with 1 or 2 stars. Like, I built model, did not have sex with me.
Yeah.
1 star.
Did you think you were getting a freaking fleshlight with this? Yeah, that's another kind of modeling there.
Isn't it? It looks like I can't tell because I can't read it. It's like anywhere from $90 to $160.
Yeah, this one's $88. I think I saw ones that were cheaper, but
God damn, why the fuck do people? I mean, yes, it looks.
And like it looks nothing like that when you get it. It's basically just resin when you get it.
Yeah, it's a fine molds. That's a fine molds product, I believe. It's pure resin.
So it doesn't even.
This one's $42, and this one looks cooler.
Is it because she's white, Colin?
Well, it's because she's
gonna be honest.
Yeah, see, that's how they look like. Well, yeah. So yeah, this one I don't know. See, it shows her coming out of one of the robots.
Yeah, but
yeah.
I'm not sure the robots.
Why
included.
would you be piloting a robot with that huge tits and only a bra and panties?
Well, it's hot in there, man.
Yeah, you don't want to overheat.
Yes, but usually you want a flight suit to contain things so you can get in and out quicker without snagging things. You would think.
This is sexy Japan.
Not practical.
That's not a problem in sexy Japan. Let's see what we got here.
Jesus fucking Christ! Those are all available on Amazon somehow. That's.
Well, I mean, they're not naked.
No, I'm not saying that because they're naked or anything. I'm just surprised Amazon has this robust of a selection.
Well, yeah. Well, this one. Oh wait, no, this one's from Sellers. I mean, they have everything from Sellers. I'm not sure if Amazon's selling this straight up.
Wow, they did a great. That's a great lacquer paint job on that model. Holy shit!
Yeah, if you go to the last photo, that's what you get. That's what
if
you
they
start
would sell
with.
the model that it came out of in the picture with it, that'd be cool. Because then at least I'd have I could tell my wife like, I didn't just buy a half-naked chick to paint.
This is art. I'm not jacking off to this.
Or I could at least have a little caption like, "Paint me like the girls in your models, Jack." Or something fucking stupid.
Just full on lunatic at that point.
If I had that in my house, I would fucking hide it. No one would ever see it. It would never see it. It would be done. I would be like, yeah, I did a good job on that. It would either go directly into a closet and never be seen again, or go in the trash.
But I mean, that is a challenge, and that's why I
it's a
suggested it to
challenge.
Nathan. That'd be a challenge to do that, to
It's
make
a
it look
challenge
like
to have
that thing.
It's a challenge to have your wife stay married to you while you make that. It's either me or the model, Nathan. Me or the model. I can't have sex with both of us. Or can I? Sorry.
Okay, so we watched a film this week.
Yeah.
Debbie Does Dallas 3. Really ill.
She still does Dallas.
She's getting to the southern suburbs this time.
Debbie does Austin.
Debbie does Parker Township. Debbie does Stubbville.
Debbie does the Hayabusa prefecture.
Debbie does it all.
And then the tagline underneath the title is like Debbie does, Stubbfield or whatever. It's not really for the money anymore.
Yeah.
Just something.
Debbie's officially a nympho at this point. It's like, I don't care if you got no front teeth.
My self-worth is based on how much you degrade me. Go!
Make me into your toilet so I can get over my daddy issues.
Oh, it didn't work. Well, keep going.
It could be one of those sequels that doesn't need an actual other sequel before. Like, how did we get to 3? There wasn't a 2. Don't ask questions. This is gold.
Rights issues.
Yeah, some of those almost like Hollywood Hot Tubs goes up to like 29 or something. Really, there's that many installments? Where did the plot go?
Red Shoe Diaries Season 2.
So anyway, we watched Gomorrah, which is a weird movie set in post-apocalyptic Southern.
Yeah, this is not the Italy you know and love.
No, I was watching this movie. It's like, this looks like some South African drug den or something.
Well, just remember, it's like, we're apparently in a more architectural, interesting Baltimore.
Some weird public housing there.
Who do people in
Police
Baltimore
are
love
only
scooters
seen
so
in the
much?
distance. So yeah, this movie almost had an apocalyptic aesthetic to it, or post-apocalyptic aesthetic to it, because it's like everything seems disorganized and dirty.
And everybody looks both like they're 4 years old and 48 years old.
Yeah. Just a weird starting scene where we're in these neon tanning booths. As soon as the movie starts, we just jump right into these neon tanning booths with like lots of black lights in them and people getting assassinated, getting shot in the throat. Interestingly, it's like, yeah, just do that. But let's talk about this. So this movie came out in like 2009 or something.
Yeah, I think 2008. I can't remember.
2008. That's what
Yeah, and it's about a crime syndicate in Italy in southern Italy called the Camorra, which is a little different from the traditional mafia because it's like individual groups of gangsters instead of a kind of a striated command structure like the mafia has.
And not sexy or alluring in any way.
No, desperate and sad, but with lots of like machine guns hidden in buildings and with grenade launchers on them, and
plenty of Berettas that just go around.
yeah, Berettas everywhere. Everyone's being murdered in this movie, and this is like what's like 5 stories kind of interwoven around this.
You got the kid. You got Scarface wannabe. You got the guy who makes clothes. You got the Don.
Yeah.
And then is there any more? Oh, and the guys who are the toxic waste guys.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of a weird because you got the guy who's the movie after the assassinations. You got this guy who goes around and gives money to the people who've been these guys were like in prison for a long time, and kind of the crime syndicate supports them.
Yeah.
But not enough because they're always bitching about, I don't have enough money and you're late and be on time next time. And this guy for some kind of organized crime figure seems like a pretty timid person.
Yeah.
So that's the Don. And then you got the guy who delivers groceries, which that becomes part of another story. And he's like how old is he?
I don't know, like 12 or 13.
Yeah, like 12 or 13 or something.
I mean, he looks almost like a boy or a girl because of his earring and ambiguous
Yeah.
hairstyle. And his name, Toto. I mean, either he really loves the band, or, I mean, he's just really a big fan of Dorothy.
Just
and
waiting
Wizard
for
of Oz.
tornadoes.
And then you
never
have
gonna
the
come.
young guy who works with the older guy, which is the most interesting story for me because it was the most criminal but the least crime related, or
That seemed like the most high-end crime, like people in
Yeah.
suits doing crime.
yeah, it's like we're gonna dump toxic waste onto these poor villagers' country farms, and make all kinds of money because we don't give a shit because we're not disposing of it properly. And then I like they're like scouting out a rock quarry, and
What
there's
was
all
the-
kinds of stuff going on like this.
Or they're,
So-
first they're, what, you talking about the abandoned gas station that they're looking
Well, the
at?
abandoned gas station, but there's also a weird scene where they're getting out with hazmat suits from a shipping container, where I couldn't tell if they traveled in the shipping container to not have any detection against them or whatever, so they just traveled with toxic waste.
No, those were the government people because the waste spilled on the drivers.
Well,
those
no,
are the guys-
no, the two guys were in the hazmat suits.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, in the container.
Yeah.
Oh okay, yeah.
I couldn't make out if they traveled with the container or if they were just inspecting it before it went.
Yeah, we can throw this away.
Like,
That's why, yeah, because at first I thought, like, because it was after the scene where they're dumping it, it was like, oh, something went wrong, and now they're investigating it, and this is the container. And it's like, oh, not, those are the guys that are doing this. Like, what the fuck is that? It's like,
but
and
then it's like they know the dock workers and they know the guy, the captain of the ship they're loading it on. So
Yeah.
like, either they just got off that ship or they're getting on. Like I couldn't tell.
no, I think
It
it
was-
just cut to a different scene.
It was a little confusing, but I do like that they were scoping out this rock quarry. It's like, how much toxic waste can we get in this? And then after the drivers get some of the toxic waste spilled on them, they give little kids pillows and have them drive the trucks down into the quarry. Remember that scene?
Yeah, because it's kind of funny that the unskilled manual labor couldn't drive a truck, but a little kid's like, "You take that one, I take that one. Get a pillow. Come on, we're good."
Yeah, it was it's like, can the blacks drive the truck? Nah, they can't even ride a bicycle. Oh shit! So then they go get little kids to
somehow.
drive. Yeah.
Yeah, somehow work a manual transmission on a giant truck.
That was the most captivating scene in their story in this movie, was the toxic waste, because you don't think about that. But then when you think about The Sopranos, it's like, oh yeah, all those guys supposedly worked in waste management. So yeah.
When I was a scene in Sopranos where, like, they were supposed to dump all this asbestos stuff somewhere, and then they just dumped it in the middle of the field somewhere, and then, like, it came back on them. So.
Yeah, I don't care. And then what was the poignant part of that? Where the younger guy, was his name Roberto?
Yeah.
Because it was Roberto and Frank or something, and the Frank was the older guy, and they're like part of this crime syndicate that just dumped toxic waste in the southern Italy in these poor farmers' land, and then the lady gives them peaches, and they drive out a little ways. He's like, "Throw those out; those are contaminated. You don't want to eat that shit." And the young guy gets out of the car. He's like, "I can't do this. I'd rather murder people than do this." And then I sort of understood the story they had about the garment worker guy, because wasn't he teaching because they were making knockoffs of, were they making knockoffs?
I didn't that was the whole thing I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Like, is this a scam or a legitimate
I
business?
think like the first guy he's working for is like they're actually making designer dresses for like market, for like stores and stuff. Because they're talking about they'll get 30 euros a dress within 30 days or whatever days. And so the other guy always seems to throw him under the bus and say, "Fuck them, the workers will do the work and I'll get my money." And so the other guy just like, "Oh, I have all these skills and these nice China people are telling me like, oh, come train us, we'll give you a lot of money." And yeah, it almost seems like maybe it's knockoffs, but maybe it's not. Like, it's just whoever has the best seamstresses get the contracts.
Yeah, because I just wondered, was like, how is this mob related? Is this somehow a scam, or is this just because there's mob money behind this?
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that, but then the main guy, Pascal, in that he's clandestinely teaching the Chinese how to do this.
Yeah.
And then he gets the car. They drive him to work. They throw him in the trunk, and then the car gets shot up. And he figures out his boss fucked him because he wasn't supposed to be working with the Chinese, and it was kind of weird. Was he in a cafe? And he sees Scarlett Johansson on TV in one of his outfits, and he's like, "Oh, that's cool." And you're thinking, "Oh, okay, this guy continued in this work," and then he goes and gets in a truck and drives off. And it's like, oh.
I just thought it was more unbelievable that somehow somebody that designed dresses all his life knows how to drive it semi-competently.
It's Europe. It's different over
Dual
there.
rules, you know. When he was working them in the bone, he had to drive the truck and make the dresses. You know, he had to do all.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's just I mean, like I told Colin before the podcast started, the only story I didn't like was the Don story, just because I didn't find him very interesting and very compelling in any way. I just thought
Really? I thought it was kind of neat to have like the mealy mouth white bread guy that worked for the mob, but he was actually a scared, like, you know, almost like those middle manager types you meet.
Yeah, it seemed like this was like it was a family thing. He didn't want to do this. Like I said, like
My dad made me do.
Yeah,
or something.
it's like I just want to spend a career bird watching. I don't want to collect money for because like all the people just push him around. Is like there's not enough money here, or like they push him around when he can't count the money fast enough, and like counting the money like 3 different times. And they're like, yeah, it's all there, and he's counting it.
And before I researched this movie, it's like, well, they're calling this guy Don. I didn't know if that was his name or if that was a title. And it's like, I was thinking this guy's a mafia Don and their people are treating him like this. But then I did some research on the movie. It's like, oh, this is a different organization where it doesn't, you know, that's actually not what it, you know, what I think it would mean from American mob movies.
Don Corleone.
Yeah. So.
Maybe it's more of a disrespect thing because they call him Don something because, you know, he's supposed to be in charge of something, but he's really a joke. Or, I don't know.
Yeah, he's just kind of a bag man, but it was.
Yeah, he's like some sort of manager of sorts, but
yeah. He gives the pensions to the people who did extremely long prison sentences for this group. They murdered people or something. But yeah, he gets pushed around a lot. And then he had the 2 young guys, like in their early 20s, that they ended the movie. That they were trying to be mobsters, but just managed to piss everyone off and get themselves killed.
Shoot some guns on a fucking I don't know, a beach or just flooded land and just in their underwear.
Like that was a weird scene. Yeah, it's like, hey, we got Kalashnikovs and pistols and something with a grenade launcher. Let's strip down to our tidy whities and go out there and start shooting in the swamps. Like, what the fuck is this movie? But I mean, that was part of the whole. Like I said, this movie just looked dirty. This looked like a '70s crime movie, and you know that's.
I was liking it too. Watching it, was like, oh, this is Italian The Wire.
Yeah, or something. Yeah,
but you never get like the police side of it. It's just all criminal side of it.
No, there's no. Like I said, this is post-apocalyptic Southern Italy because there's police or something. It's like Judge Dredd. It's like they only respond to 6% of the crime or something.
I mean, that's how it worked in the Wire too, because they had those housing complexes where they just like they took it over, they sold all the drugs there, and the cops never came. Like,
yeah,
and the buildings were falling apart too, and they eventually demolished them. But here it just looks like a boat, just carcass with people living in it.
Yeah, it's a weird fucking building. Then to find out that this was all based on like real stuff and real people, and kind of strange. I mean, it was a great movie. I liked it more than usually a lot of foreign language films I kind of struggle with. This one pretty much drew me in. Oh, this is interesting, and it made me do research afterward. It's like, what are the? Because what's this? This isn't called the Mafia. This is called the what is it? The Camorra.
Yeah.
Because I know Gomorrah is like a play on the word.
Yeah.
But yeah. So it was a cool movie.
Well, yeah, they have those stats in of it where like they kill a person. What is it?
Every 3 days.
Yeah. And then the toxic waste, they've buried enough toxic waste to be bigger than 2 Mount Everest, or at least taller, not necessarily bigger.
Yeah, they've turned the Campania region of Italy into fucking Chernobyl.
And it's like been an increase
so high.
Yeah, and 20% increase in cancer rates in the area.
Yeah. So yeah, it's based on a real thing, a real group. And these people they just like to shoot people in the throat a lot. Seemed to be the thing to do in the movie. Actually, it would work. Okay, yeah, they were making counterfeit dresses.
Okay.
That is a mob crime both in Italy and America. Because in New York they had something called the Garment District. I'm reading this right now. So.
Okay.
But yeah, that is so. Those were counterfeit dresses, but they're made of the same materials. It's the profit margin comes from the extremely low labor costs of illegals and foreigners and people like that.
Okay.
So yeah, that is a form of organized crime. Not as sexy as drugs and whoring, but doesn't bring it either. So yeah,
It still takes advantage of human life. So you know.
yeah. And what's that but capitalism? So has this guy, the director of this movie, done anything we'd be familiar with?
Oh, I didn't look into it. I watched about an hour and 20 minutes of it, and then I had to fast forward watch the rest of the movie, so I didn't get to dig into any of the extras or even look up the IMDb of it. But.
Basically, no. What I'm seeing is like there's nothing.
It didn't even work on that Italy 1984 show.
I don't think so. No, there's a series called Gomorrah 2. It's actually on Netflix, I believe, but it's similar to this, but not related to this. Believe it or not.
Oh, okay. That's
it's
weird.
About crime and organized crime, but it says it has nothing but a name similarity. So, because this is a book, it's a very famous book written in when was it written?
Does it have the same title, or is it something different?
Gomorrah.
Okay.
Published in 2006.
That was a pretty quick turnaround from the book to the movie. Then.
Yeah. Also, kind of remind me of Traffic in some ways too, where it's like the multiple stories, and of course those intertwined, and the stories here didn't necessarily intertwine.
Yeah, it was just kind of same region, same people, different kinds of crime.
I'm just gonna say it's the same thing as City of God, though. It doesn't have the one main character arching through all that stuff, but it's still.
There's also no hope.
There's also no hope. Very depressing, dark, dingy, rundown.
Yeah, the end of this movie's great. When the cancer dude, it's like we spent more money killing these kids than they were worth, because the guy has a trach.
Yeah.
Talks through it. It's like yeah, but that's this group of organized criminals in southern Italy. It's a very, very good movie. I liked it. It's real upbeat though. Really keep you awake. Now, of course, people in Italy say this movie's completely exaggerated. Not true.
No, it's the only one true look of. Oh, there's that part they get to Venice. It's like, yeah, here's Italy. You can, be that's respectable part of Italy.
Italy that Americans spend thousands of dollars to go see, and they eat spaghetti and they go like this. It's like, yeah, they fucking hate you.
I like when they're in Venice and they do everything by boat. And they have there's boat funerals and boat cops and boat fire department.
Yeah. And it'll all be gone in 10 years. But yeah, this is a good upbeat Italian movie. So Gomorrah, check it out. Did you have anything else to add about this?
I did not. Andrew?
No.
What were your thoughts, Andrew? Did you enjoy watching this?
Yeah, I enjoyed watching it a lot. And funniest scene to me was when the guy shoots the fucking grenade launcher off into the boat or whatever, because he's like, first he's like, oh fuck, and then he's like, oh wait, that was really cool.
Yeah, the guys just stripping down to their skivvies to go fire off machine guns. That was I guess that's an Italian thing. Did you notice all the people wearing sports jerseys throughout the whole movie?
Yeah.
There was
all the old gangsters and stuff. They all had some of them were American, some of them were soccer teams, and and everyone weighed 300 pounds. Very Sopranos-esque in some ways.
Well, yeah, I didn't get that.
All those carbs, man.
Well, I didn't get that as much because the whole theme throughout most of the movie, especially some of the stuff following Toto or following the Scarface twins and shit like that. A lot of it is just young people killing young people for the sake of those above them, just like any other crime story. Because it's always the underlings that get all the shit happen to them.
I remember they have the initiation for the kids wanting to join the game, where they put bulletproof vests on them to shoot them.
Oh yeah, that was a weird scene because it went on for like 10 minutes.
And the first kid they shoot, you never see get back up. And it's like, did he just die?
Well, it looked
Not
like
get
it
the
was
good bulletproof vest.
Yeah, it looked like it was a really shitty homemade bulletproof vest. And I'm like, how many times are you gonna reuse that? Because they put it on every kid and shot them. And it was like, wow, that's really safe. I'm sure like 5 kids have died already. But no, I mean, it's a lot of like, you wonder about the people that are still alive, the people giving the orders, the people higher up, because they're all, like you guys said, they're all 300-pound, fat, sweaty guys that seem like they couldn't run away or chase somebody if they had to. So it's all just brutal up. I mean, I also couldn't tell, like, the one building you say kind of looks like the inside of a ship. If there's just multiple buildings that are literally the same layout plan, because it looks like community housing almost.
Yeah.
Or if it's because there's one part where he tells the Don, like, hey, I'm gonna give you a list every day now. This is where you don't go. Don't go to the Smurfville, and don't go to, I can't remember what the other 2 were called, but it's like, it almost seems like the projects where it's like each building is its own territory.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, don't go to that building now, that building. And like that made more sense than just like, oh, it's all around this one building and stuff like that. So I mean, it almost seemed like more of a parking garage / tenement building, because there's like 2 or 3 levels of housing, then there's like 2 or 3 levels of garage and storage.
Although almost nobody has a car, everyone has a bike and a Beretta.
I know, and that was the thing. It's like there's like a million friggin' scooters and tiny cars and bikes. There's no, I mean, there's semis, which is like the total opposite end of the spectrum for those. But there's nothing really in between. I guess except for the chemical waste guy, he had like an SUV-ish type car.
Yeah.
But that was like the
He had a
biggest.
Tiguan.
Oh, okay. He had like the biggest regular sized car in the whole movie. But yeah, I don't know. I like the movie just fine. I kind of wish it maybe shortened things a little bit, but I understand where it had to tell what I had to tell.
Yeah, well, they had 5 different stories that didn't necessarily connect at all. They just
Yeah,
kind of
so-
bounced around. It seemed almost like it was maybe meant more for a mini-series than a movie, but yeah. It's a long movie, so.
Well, and to really understand what's going on, you have to do a lot of research because, I don't know anything about Italian culture or history. And it's like, what's this mob group? And then you read about what it really is. And it's like, oh, this is like the anti-mob, where it's kind of a decentralized, like, terror cell crime network more than a striated command structure, because it's a lot easier for the police to infiltrate the mafia than it is a loosely affiliated criminal organization. So yeah, that's
maybe that's why they don't try.
it requires well, no, there's just Italy is like I think it's the most corrupt country in Europe, or very close to it.
Is Turkey a part of Europe?
It depends on who you ask, but yeah.
The Germans, no.
I mean, Turkey used to be considered part of Europe at one point. I don't know if it's still
it's kind of on a. It's kind of
It's a crossroads country.
It's Germany's Mexico.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember I heard that once when someone was supposedly being shockingly racist in Germany, talking about Mercedes-Benz, saying, yeah, don't buy those anymore, that they're all built by Turks. And I'm like, Turks? What the fuck are they? But then you look, and it's like, oh, Mercedes has moved most of their assembly car plants to Turkey now because it's like 75% cheaper labor costs. But then I never think of the word Turk as being a racist term, but I guess in Europe it can be.
I guess it's just surprising considering all like the Eastern Bloc countries that are, seem further behind than the rest of like, France and Germany.
Well, I'm talking like Western Europe, like
I know.
Greece and Italy. I know the rates of corruption there are staggering compared to like the UK or Sweden or some of those countries. It's like the stuff that goes on in Greece and Italy is almost like the stuff you'd think would be going on in Mexico. It's like, oh, if the cops pull you over, just give them 100 euros and you're good to go. You could have a body in the trunk and it wouldn't matter. But okay, good more. I think I've insulted everyone in Europe at this point.
Don't forget.
All our European listeners that listen to us to learn English better.
Yes.
Don't forget about Lithuania and their new slogan, the G spot of Europe.
God.
Come visit the Jeeps. And their reasoning, if I remember the last week tonight segment right, is like when you find it, you'll experience a lot of pleasure. More than like it's there though. And then so they came out with a bunch of other fake ads like San Francisco's like the transvestite of the United States and fucking just like all this other shit, and it's like okay. And then there's a bunch of Europe bashing this week. Like Fox News is bashing the shit out of Denmark because they said Denmark was a shit country where people just lived off welfare, did nothing.
I mean, the happiest country in the world is because people are, because people get something from their government other than a big tax break for millionaires. Yeah, it's a shithole. Fuck that place. Okay.
Well, because I can't even remember. I don't think.
Thanks, Sean Hannity.
It was a female anchor that was doing the story because she was like, because there was a counter video they posted on Reddit and it had a couple different threads because it was that popular. But it was literally like this guy from Denmark that worked in the ministry there, where she would just say something where it's like, people in Denmark live in a welfare state. All they want to do is lay around and just collect their government check all day. They don't hold jobs. And he was like, well, actually, our unemployment rate is it's like the 6th best unemployment rate in the whole entire world, which is better than the United States. People love having jobs here. And then she was like, well, then people go to college and then they just stay there.
They're paid to go to college.
Yeah, they're paid to go to college and they stay there forever and never graduate. They stay there forever and never graduate because they don't want to let the gravy train in. And he was like, no, we have great graduation rates, way better than the United States does. And people love going to school. We love telling people they can pursue their dreams and do what they want to do. And then there's something else like, oh, the people that do graduate only open up cupcake bakeries. And then he was like, I don't know where you got this from. I wish it was true, but it's not true. They open more than just cupcake bakeries.
The only real news I heard from Denmark that made me really respect and love that country was people were driving too fast into the cities off the freeways. Like they would try to go freeway speeds into the towns. And so they had women with their tops off holding up speed limit signs, and everyone would slow down and pay attention. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, when you got a country where that goes on, that's fucking brilliant. I love Denmark. I don't even know anything else about them. But yeah.
Government sanctioned public pornography.
It's like great. Yes, I will slow down for your double D tits. I'm sorry, what were you saying about Denmark? About cupcake factories?
No, just that people, or Fox News in general, is bashing on them, saying their economy was shit and everything else is crap about that country because it's a welfare state, and how dare they pay people to live there and stuff like that, because they should want to work hard and let all the rich people have everything.
I mean, they should want to work for rich people. So the thing is with this country and that whole Fox News line is I guess I get to see it from rich people aren't some fantasy thing that like a king on a mountain that I never get to see. I know rich people in America. They're all fucking miserable. So if this is working out so well for even the people that are at the top of the heap here are miserable. I love that nonsense.
Well, they just need that next tax break to make it a little bit happier, so they press the line from depressed.
If they just let Trump do what he wants to do.
Right, it'll all be perfect.
That deep state keeps it from happening.
Who's going to warn us about the deep state now that Alex Jones isn't on YouTube? Where are we going to get our news?
I would say from there's a
Alex Jones website.
Oh no, I bought a local paper on Friday because of the headline. Because I guess Mike Pence had come here in the last couple of days or some fucking shit in Des Moines.
Ooh, that sounds exciting.
Yeah, about as exciting as me getting put in a burlap sack and beat to death with a rolling pin.
Oh, that would be really exciting.
Yeah,
actually, bad example, but go on.
But anyway,
it was me drinking a Diet Cola on a rainy day. That's how exciting it was.
Yeah.
But anyway. So he'd come to Des Moines to some fucking credit union to give a speech to like 500 farmers in the area because, the government needs to bail out farmers now because we fucked them so bad with all the tariffs and shit. And
remember, that's not socialism.
But he proceeded to tell the farmers that not to worry, everything was going to be great and even better than it was before because they were going to make so much money now. And it was just like, it was going to be hand over fist dollars. And it's like, what the fuck are you looking at? It's like,
The Bible.
like,
He's looking at the Bible. Like Jesus says, we're all going to be okay as long as we don't jerk off and fuck women that aren't our don't fuck women that aren't our wives. So as long as you guys do this, everything's taken care of. We don't need any plans or anything. We can just.
And then, or the other subtopic off that, there's a woman still missing from Brooklyn, Iowa. There's I think she's a sophomore at University of Iowa. She's a psychology major. And they've been looking for her for a while now, and then he was still pledging, like, oh, yeah, we'll give you every federal resource and, person we can to help solve this and bring her home safe. And I was like, you say that about a young white woman, but what would you say about a young, black child or a young Asian woman or, anybody else?
Hey, wouldn't bring it up.
Yeah, I know.
If he got cornered, he'd be like, God's will is mysterious.
And it's like, not that I think everybody should want anybody that was kidnapped and went disappearing to return home safe. But at the same time, it's like, well, it just happened to be this one was a white woman that was in her 20s, so, definitely bring her home safe.
It's a German-sounding name. We gotta get out the CIA, get out all the spy satellites. Gotta save this person. I mean, that's horrible. But Iowa's like the capital of that, according to internet conspiracy. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've been to Brooklyn. Not that I've spent like a lot of time there, but it's a small town. There's not really a lot going on, and it just seems, I mean, just like any other hokey news story where it talks about a crime in a small town, it's like you would think nothing like that would ever happen here. And
I read a news story about how Walmart is trying to sue people for shoplifting.
Really?
Yeah.
How's that working out for them?
Oh, pretty good. They're expected to do $6 million in profit in this program.
They getting blood from a turnip how?
It's
blood
weird.
From a stone, I mean.
So they just hired some agency, and it depends on the state laws. Because you can't do this in every state, but you can do it in some states.
The South.
And it's something where, like, their name will be on a list. Because I've seen people, like, shoplift. They get taken in a little area. They call the cops, and they sign all this stuff, and then they get taken out of there. But here, it's somehow... So the lawyers just, like... And it's almost like robo-lawyers. It's almost like nobody's even paying attention. Because in multiple cases, what happens is they send them a letter that says they owe them $200 for shoplifting. And if they won't pay the money, then there'll be a criminal suit will be filed. So then
extortion game. Okay.
Yeah. And so then the day comes of the criminal trial, and there's no lawyer representing Walmart there. So the case is just dismissed. In like multiple cases. It's like they're just harassing the people, and if they don't pay them, well, at least we fucking wasted their time.
At least we wasted their time and the court's time. So, here's your American Greed Factory advice this week. Shoplift from Walmart and they send you court papers, show up and you'll win. They won't. Or don't, and then get warrants on you and then fight the police and get shot to death. Whatever you want to do.
I mean, this should also go under Reddit's shitty pro-life tips for the week. Just
Shitty
shoplift from
pro-life
Walmart.
hacks.
That should just be the main... I don't get how this... Who the fuck came up with this at corporate? They're like, I have a grand idea to increase profit somehow.
They do computer studies, and they're like,
that's what they have a team of lawyers. It's the biggest company, like private
I know, but it's the biggest company that already makes so much fucking money.
I know, but this is pure. Well, I mean, I don't know. They're probably hoping to deter because like nobody's. I don't know what company is stolen from more than Walmart. Because they literally lose like $1 billion and
No, I mean, yes. I mean, this kind of loss is a huge problem for retailers and stuff like that. It's always built into their profit loss scenarios. But at the same time, yes, Walmart, this is going to plague them the most because they're the most prolific retailer and they have the biggest employer in the United States. So what do you think's gonna happen? You're gonna get the most stolen from because you're the perceived big guy in the room.
Well, like there's something in the article where they said like, this is one, it was to get some money back for having, been stolen from, I guess, and then also it was to deter future theft. But I guess they looked into it, and nothing so far has proven that this is deterring theft at all.
So it's like the death penalty.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much, yeah.
It's just satisfying.
It's
but
the
not
theft penalty.
I mean,
death penalty is very satisfying, but not really effective.
I mean, to be honest, if I would steal from Walmart and like I would obviously get caught because I'm not a thief, but if I got caught, then they sent me a letter saying I owed them $200 and I paid it. I would just want to go back to Walmart and find some way to steal the $200 that they fucking robbed me out of. Or at least, whatever the balance was between what I stole and what I owed them.
And I guess most of the people in the story, like, they didn't even steal from Walmart. It was just some sort of like, somehow they were identified as the culprit or something. There was one person, like, all they did was they returned an airbed, and they couldn't get, because they didn't have a receipt, they didn't get money in return. They got an exchange for a grill. And because they had to do that, Walmart somehow had listed them as like a potential theft suspect or whatever. Because I mean, that happens all the fucking time.
No, yeah, it's.
Yeah.
So then she had to go through this whole thing merely because she was identified as a potential theft suspect by Walmart for some reason.
So in other words, if I make a return and exchange it or take store credit or whatever, basically I could see a theft letter in the mail.
Yeah, I'm not sure if those laws apply in Iowa, but yeah, I think it's.
I kind of want to look it up
Arkansas
now just to see what states it does apply and like how many people are getting
Anywhere above the Mason-Dixon level is safe.
It's an article in the New York Times. You can read about it. It's pretty strange article.
Any of those states where incest is still something where they have to have a public information about it is probably where this is going on.
So
They still have to inform.
Well, yeah, the first lady,
close relatives is not on the books.
It was weird and sad because the first lady, she was talking about how she had to go through this whole thing, and like, because she did not respond to the letters the lawyers had sent her from Walmart, she's like, "What is this? I didn't steal from Walmart." And I guess she's agoraphobic, so she hasn't been in Walmart for 5 years because she's afraid to go outside. And so the cops came, arrested her, and then they did it she had to get undressed. She had to take out her false teeth and all these things to prove she didn't have anything on her and all that stuff, just to show up at trial where Walmart wasn't there to prosecute her.
I thought there was a statute of limitations for fucking petty theft that 5 years. It shouldn't be that long.
Again, state laws.
Jesus Christ.
Again, you got to look at where you're living and where other people are living. Yeah, you get down into the deep south, there's not a lot of laws down there.
No, it's just... Oh, what was it? That reminds me of the fucking... There's this guy that works for the fucking EPA because that California wildfire that's still fucking going. It's the biggest in state history. And he was going on rambling, or a reporter saying, whole reason it's this bad, and the whole reason it's a huge wildfire in the first place is because environmental terrorists that live in the United States. And it was what the environmental terrorists, huh? So what's your reasoning behind that? Oh, they're environmental terrorists because they won't let us clear dead trees and underbrush and shit we should be clearing to manage the forest properly. They keep signing these petitions and having people do fucking protests to not have people go in and cut down trees and stuff because they protect the environment, and also their shit so that makes them terrorists because they protested something it's
them and Hezbollah, they're in the same. Well, you want to know the reason the California wildfires are so bad? Because I heard this the other day from someone who lived in California on a podcast. Do you know since 1990, the population of California has gone up equivalent to what the entire population of Michigan's been in the last 20 years. They've literally added 10 million people in California. And they're not all 10 million people that are just moving into houses that people died. These are 10 million new people, new homes. and they're expanding into a brush desert. And the more they expand these houses into these deserts, the more of this shit they're going to have happen. Because California, the places where these fires are going on, is a desert. It's not a place that, like, if it wasn't for the Colorado River being piped in, it would be like Saudi Arabia. It's people are not meant to live in those places. And they always say, like, oh, this year's the most unprecedented. 5 years ago, those were the most unprecedented, and they've added 1 million people since then. So, yeah, that's the truth, and it makes perfect sense when you listen and you actually research it and look at the guy's logic. It's like, yeah, they've added all these people. They've added a state's worth, a kind of a middle-sized Midwestern state's worth of people in a decade. You know, that's what. So yeah, of course, all these houses are burning down because they've added all these people. I don't know what the fuck people are doing out there because you can't afford to live there.
Well, I mean, it's just like any expanding city. Like Cedar Rapids is running into this more. I mean, we don't seem to be expanding. It doesn't seem to be getting any bigger, but all the new housing developments, after you run out of the prime land that doesn't get flooded, burned down, or isn't prone to something, or actually has good land to build something on where it won't collapse right away in the next 20 years. Like, usually all that land's taken up already. No one's going to give it up unless you pay a crap load of money. So then you're forced to build all your new houses and expand into shittier areas nobody wanted to be in. So,
yeah, that's when you go petition the state government and lobby them like, no, you can build houses in a swamp. What could go wrong?
It's like people love to have the river in their backyard or just be under their house at all times.
So that's yeah, but you'll never get anyone to talk about that realistically. It's like, oh, it's all global warming. It's like, no, you're putting millions of people into a place where millions of people were never meant to live. I get it. It's nice. It's a Mediterranean climate. Everyone's sexy. Cool. You want to live out there? Great. But, you know, some of us are going to have to live where it's cold because it's just not practical to live in a fucking desert that burns down every 3 years. Because you people want to live where it's 70 degrees in December. It's like, that would be wonderful, but this is the reason why it doesn't work. Because all our homeowners insurance goes up over this shit. Same thing in Florida. It's like, great, you want to live on a beach? Wonderful. Why should I pay to rebuild your house every 5 years? Because you're living in a place where human beings were never meant to live. Because human beings are supposed to live where it sucks. Because you never hear about forest fires in Siberia or fucking hurricanes because nobody wants to live there. It's like that half of Siberia could burn to the ground. It would, like, 2 peasants would get run off their hutch because no one wants to fucking live there. But everyone wants to live where it's 70 degrees and sunny all year round. I totally get that, but this is the price we have to pay, and I'm not willing to pay it anymore. I'm tired of my homeowner's insurance going up $500 every year so some asshole can live on the beach. I'm done with it. This is where I draw my line.
Well, there was a study done a couple of years ago that was published. I can't remember what magazine. But it was like if you gave everybody basically a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house and a nice yard and, you know, like a garage and put them all next to each other and, like, literally the living space of the United States, how much room that would take up and be like a good sized chunk of, like, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, and a little bit of, like, Minnesota. And that would be everybody in the United States. And so it's like statistically and space-wise, everybody could live in the Midwest. I mean, I don't get why they...
That'd be terrible.
Well, it'd be terrible, yes.
Wouldn't be good for us.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like, wow, that's...
Chicago, too.
It's like, we're part of Mega Block 9.
Yeah.
It's like a Blade Runner city. The buildings go up 100 stories.
Well, even then, you'd save even more space.
Well, you want to know one of the grimmest things I've ever heard someone talk about, and this is one of those statistics and logic guys that I listen to occasionally. It's you ever heard of the 19th century paradigm? Or so it's 19th century paradigm, or I don't know. Anyway, it's about climate change. And it's about, like, what humans can really do to prevent it, like really, really do. If the science is what they say it is, what people can really do. It's like, well, there's 2 things we can do, and it all involves the 19th century. We can go back to the level of technology in the 19th century where we don't heat and cool our homes centrally. We don't have all these integrated power networks, and we don't use cars. or we can reduce the human population level to what it was in the 19th, and therefore we won't have all this. This guy actually came up with this based on the science. He's like, okay, if this is the science of climate change, these are our two solutions. Now, which one do you think is really gonna happen? And it was kind of put out there as a smart ass thing, but then other people started looking at it and they're like, oh fuck, this guy might be right. What the fuck? What are we gonna do?
We're gonna have a lottery, and the Grand Canyon's gonna be a giant grave.
Yes.
So what you're saying is the first Kings of the movie and Thanos are right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thanos has always been right. Never assume that Thanos was wrong. It's just the results are horrible to live
He
with.
could have made the world better, but he decided to kill half the world.
What was the population in 1900 worldwide?
About 1 billion.
Oh god, that would just leave basically like India.
Yep.
That's all it'd be left.
No, that's even too many people. It's like
No, I
India
know,
minus
it's over
200
1
million people.
now, yeah, it's...
No, because this was developed. I think this guy. I don't know. I'll look it up. It's called like the 19th century paradox or paradigm or something. But this was an American guy who came up with this. Who was I think he's a statistician or an economist or something. One of those smart people like that. And so yeah, basically the population of Western Europe and North America. It's like if we were at those numbers, everything would be fine. Because that's how it's going to roll.
Is that what they're trying to do in Handmaid's Tale?
it's
So if every third person is limited to half a kid...
Look, if we went to like global one child, where everyone just had one kid all over the world, the problems we're having right now, they would fucking vaporize in a generation. It would really actually, you would see, but you'll never get people to sign on to that. You can't even get people in America to sign on to that. But,
well, you know. Good news, lowering fertility rates in the Northern American hemisphere and also in parts of Europe and Africa. We're going to help you with that plan.
Well, it's not my plan. It's not what I want.
I know.
It's just the real world. Unless we invent cold fusion and intergalactic space travel in the next 10 years, we are fucking fucked. So
isn't somebody didn't they fucking like this is Skunk Works? Yeah, Lockheed, aren't they working on cold fusion? Don't they have that generator that they're working on?
Yeah, but you have to put twice as much energy into it as you get out. So it's it's still in the creative phase.
Does cold fusion count if I lick my dick and stick it on a pole in negative weather?
That's not what they're talking about.
It is if it's in the middle of winter and you stick your dick in a fusion car. That's too cold. That's a cold fusion. Thanks, Mexico.
Wrap your Tesla car around a telephone pole in Minnesota in January. That's cold fusion.
Sorry.
Speaking of which, we're sending a cool probe to the sun. I think it's called the Parker probe.
So how much data does it exactly bring back before it fucking vaporizes?
It's going to fly into the corona. It has a special shield. Because Parker was the guy who developed, and I'm probably getting half of this wrong, but this isn't a science podcast, so...
Go watch Sci-Friday from NPR.
Yeah, just listen to something boring and then come back and laugh with us. But this is the guy, Parker was the guy who theorized solar winds in the 60s, and everyone was like, you're full of shit, you know, because his theories were based on, you know, because the sun is like helium hydrogen fusion, and it's like, well, this has to outgas and generate energy waves that are like wind on Earth, and everyone's like, you're full of shit. Then it turns out he was right. And so they're sending this sun probe into the corona. It'll take like 6 years to get there, but it has some kind of heat shield where it can tolerate this incredibly high amount of heat, and it's going to send telemetry back to us, or it'll crash into the surface of the sun because someone got the metric English conversion wrong. We don't know, but it actually is kind of cool that it's like,
secretly sunshine is happening. It's a giant megaton where the sun is dying.
The sun it's got a cue ball in it. There's a black hole consuming energy.
I don't think our problem is that our climate's getting colder right now. If it was, that's
just wait.
Yeah, just wait 10 years and the problem will change. People aren't using enough hydrocarbons.
What's we're supposed to have an ice age like once every like 25,000 years, and I think we're on that point. So
Yeah, it would make sense because the world is getting warmer. So
yeah,
Well-
it'll get really warm, and then suddenly it gets really cold.
So what you're saying is living in California now, bad idea. Living in California another 2,000 years, good idea.
Because like one of it's like if the
Well,
polar
living in
ice.
California is always a bad idea because you're in the ring of fire. But once the Yellowstone caldera explodes, then
Yeah, we're all dead anyways.
well, no, just the people in the West. I mean, we'll freeze to death, but we won't die from like.
It's okay. The sun's gonna consume the Earth anyways, so all our atoms will be dispersed to the universe eventually anyways.
Yeah, but that's still like almost 5 billion years off.
More than that.
That's a little bit later on than the Yellowstone supervolcano will go off.
Well, the Yellowstone supervolcano is way overdue for going off, but then you talk to geologists and they're like, "Yeah, it is, but it's within a 5 to 25,000 year range." Okay, well, society will be dead by
Plus
then.
or minus.
Yeah, plus or minus, because we think this stuff happens on like a train schedule. Like, oh, Yellowstone's overdue any day now. Well, no, not exactly, but
Wouldn't there be ways to just? I mean, I know this probably sounds stupid, but I mean, it's all volcanoes erupt because of the plates under the surface kind of colliding and forcing up pressure and different gases and stuff like that. But isn't there a way to like relieve pressure somehow by I don't know, trying to get pressure off?
well, that's where Trump's Space Force is going to shoot nuclear bombs into the Earth and relieve that pressure and save us all.
Yeah.
To do that kind of repair work on the Earth is too massive of a scale.
No,
we
I
don't
know.
really-
That's what
We don't
Right.
have destructive technologies that work in those scales.
Well,
But you know that the Earth is full of diamonds, right? You heard they've hypothesized that now?
Oh.
That the
So-
core of the Earth has giant, like, Mount Everest-sized diamonds rotating around a liquid core. And they can say that because why not? Who's going to fucking disprove it? It sounds cool as shit.
Well, how big was that hole that the Russians dug? Well, it wasn't really that big. It was like a size of a pencil or something, right? Or some shit.
7.8 miles or something crazy like that.
And-
I don't know. Let me look. Because
It's
this
not
is
even-
important.
We talk
This
about
is the
that.
science our listeners yearn for.
Shit, what was that movie? It's not on Filmstruck anymore, but they did have it on there. Where they're up in Alaska, and they're like digging a hole, and like basically demons come out.
Oh yeah, that was a weird one. That was with Ron Perlman too.
Is that like the last winter or something like that? Yeah, I think it's last.
Sprite is called Demon Hole.
What you're talking about is the Kola Super Deep Borehole, and it went down. Not the one where demons came out.
That'd only be interesting. People pay
It went
attention.
down 49,000 feet. Which is how many miles? I don't know.
Get the mile converter out.
Yeah, I don't understand. Well, actually, what they found out was the Earth was a lot cooler than they thought at that depth. But anyway, Kola Super Deep Borehole. Check it out. All right, I got to go to bed. I'm
All right.
done. I have nothing else to add.
All right.
So this week for the American Greed Factory podcast, this is Nathan.
This is Conlon.
Andrew?
Goodbye, America.
What happened?